we meet Yao Qiao, a lowly corporate worker from the modern world, who died a month ago from exhaustion while writing a work report overnight. When she woke up, she found herself inside a popular cultivation novel where every powerful character is obsessed with her. Honestly, she didn't mind the idea of being stuck in a book, she just wanted to survive. But the worst part? She wasn't even the main character. Nope, she became the stepping stone sidekick to Yunkyu, the female lead. Her character? A total doormat. Whenever the heroine got into trouble, she had to step up and take the hit. When the heroine's spiritual roots were damaged, she had to offer up her own. And if all that wasn't bad enough, after giving her heart and soul to help the heroine, she was rewarded with death, stabbed straight through the heart with a sword. Tragic doesn't even begin to describe her life as cannon fodder. Now, it's happening again. After all her hard work, she finally found a rare herb, only for her senior brother, Sujua, a direct disciple of Elder Yunhen from the Yuching Sect, to snitch and tell their master. The two of them then decided to give the herb to Yunkyu, the heroine, without even asking her. When she clenched her fists and said that the herb was meant for her own cultivation breakthrough, Sujua immediately said that the junior sister needed it more than she did. Their master, Yunhen, agreed, saying that since Yunkyu's body was weaker, she should use it first. He even promised that when the sect treasury opened, her senior brother would bring her another one. Yeah, easy for him to say. Does he think this rare herb is as common as a cabbage? Not only is it incredibly hard to find, but even in a sect full of strong cultivators, it's still difficult to obtain. How can Master guarantee that my senior brother will actually get another one for me? And of course, it's always about that poor little junior sister. Everyone dotes on her, yet I don't even have the right to keep something I found myself. Yao Qiao had been holding in her frustration for way too long, and this time she couldn't take it anymore. She finally snapped and said what was really on her mind, so being weak makes you right, and being strong makes you deserve to die, huh? Before she could finish, she was hit by a powerful palm strike and sent flying to the ground. Her cheat master, with spiritual energy glowing in his hand, forcibly opened her storage space and took the herb. He accused her of being rebellious and disrespectful, punishing her by ordering her to return to her room and reflect on her behavior, forbidding her from leaving. After carefully putting away the herb, he turned and left without another word. She didn't get up right away, instead, she laughed bitterly to herself. How ironic. To obtain the herb, she had survived the terrifying demon abyss, a place where everyone knew she was likely to die. Yet now, she was being beaten down in her own sect. Using the wall for support, she stood up and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. This cultivation world sucks. Now she really needed to figure out a way to protect herself. Suddenly, she heard her senior brother, Sujua, calling out to her. He grabbed her hand, apologized, and promised to repay her in the future. Then, as if he had the right, he started lecturing her, saying she was being too selfish for refusing to give the herb to their junior sister. He went on about how the little junior sister is delicate and frail, totally different from her. Not only did he hurt her hand when she grabbed it, but now she had to listen to him complain. Without a word, she yanked her hand free and punched him square in the face. She had so much rage to let out and wasn't going to hold back anymore. So just because Yunkyu needs something, you guys think you can just take it from me? And what, the Yuching sect only got this far by stealing? Sudwa just stared at her in confusion, like he couldn't understand why she was acting out. He thought she was being unreasonable, but she didn't care to explain herself anymore. She was done. With a dismissive wave, she told him to go find his sweet, delicate junior sister and stop worrying about someone as heartless and irrational as her. She made a vow in her heart, from now on, she had nothing to do with the Yuching sect anymore. That role of a useless side character? Whoever wants it can have it. She's done. Looking at the time, it was about to be the start of her new life, so she might as well get away from these idiots early. She went straight to the sect office and declared she wanted to leave the sect. Since she wasn't some high-ranking disciple, the paperwork was done quickly. Not only did she leave this dumb sect behind, but she even got 100 spirit stones as compensation. Her good mood was interrupted when she heard someone call her trash from behind. She turned around, asking the person to repeat it, but before he could say anything, she spoke again, "You're right. I'm trash." She then threw her sect badge at him and added, "A piece of trash like me can't afford to be in a sect like this anyway." With that, she walked off with swagger. The person she left behind was dumbfounded, wondering if Yao Qiao had lost her mind. Not only did she leave easily, but she even pocketed that 100 spirit stone payout. Feeling good, she made her way to Cloud City. The bustling marketplace greeted her with the scent of delicious buns, and the shouts of a vendor calling her to try them out. Her stomach growled, reminding her she was starving. She went up to the bun stall and asked the owner how much for a bun. He smiled and held up 3 fingers, saying, 3 mid-grade spirit stones for 1 bun. Hearing the price, she could only mutter, "Never mind," and awkwardly walked away. Finding a quiet corner, she sat down and began to count all her money. She took out 3 mid-grade spirit stones from her pocket and realized that all she could afford was just 1 bun. She sighed at how ridiculously expensive things were in Cloud City. With just 100 spirit stones, it wouldn't get her very far. Now she understood why the original owner of this body was always broke and had to rely on the sect. She was officially broke too. The only option left was to find a way to make money. How could she do that? She looked at 2 nearby shops, one selling talismans, the other selling potions. It hit her, the most profitable jobs around were making talismans and refining potions. The original owner of this body was a sword cultivator, not a talisman maker, and she had never drawn one before. But with her photographic memory, maybe she could try recreating the talismans from this novel. She checked into an inn and in her room, she started drawing from memory. After a few strokes, she had finished her first talisman. Holding it up, she felt a sense of pride. Was this success? Could drawing talismans really be this easy? She couldn't believe she nailed it on the first try. But then, she felt a trickle of blood from her nose. Wiping it off, she realized that making talismans wasn't something just anyone could do, especially someone as weak as Yao Qiao. Once the nosebleed stopped, she thought she could push through and made a few more. After about half an hour, she was completely drained and passed out. When she woke up, there was a stack of completed talismans in her hand. Sure, they were basic ones like the Speed Talisman and Sleep Talisman, but they should be worth something. It said the Speed Talisman can make you run super fast, so she stuck one on herself to try it out. But nothing happened. Sigh, she thought. Guess I'll have to draw another one. It makes sense. Even those best disciples at Yuching Sect didn't always get it right on the first try. Maybe I was overestimating myself. Just as she was about to draw a new one, a sudden force knocked her into the wall, leaving a hole in it. She cried out in pain. Looking at the Speed Talisman, she was excited, realizing that she had actually succeeded in drawing one. She made her way to the black market and started her little talisman selling business. Standing by her stall, she called out, "Cheap and effective speed and sleep talismans, only 10 spirit stones. Don't miss out." No one came to buy, but she wasn't discouraged, it was her first day, after all. Suddenly, a guy dressed in a red showed up. Not only did he not buy anything, but he also messed up her stall, scattering the talismans she'd carefully arranged. That was just rude. He turned out to be Mu Chungi, a direct disciple of the Changming sect. She was left staring at him, her mood sinking as she noticed he had his foot on the talisman she'd worked so hard to make. Still, she politely reminded him, "Hey, fellow cultivator, could you please move your foot? It's on my stall." Inside, though, she was fuming. Embarrassed, he asked if she was hurt. She said she wasn't physically hurt, but dramatically clutched her chest, claiming she'd suffered emotional damage. Feeling guilty, Mu Chungi pulled out a high spirit stones and asked if it would be enough as compensation. When Yao Qiao heard it was a high spirit stones, worth about 100 normal spirit stones, she couldn't hide her excitement. Without hesitation, she took the spirit stones and stuffed it into her sleeve, generously saying she forgave him. Mu Chungi squatted down to help her clean up the stall and noticed some talismans she had laid out. He asked if she was a talisman cultivator. Since she still needed to make money, she vaguely agreed so she could keep selling them. Other passers-by noticed Mu Chungi's outfit and assumed that Yao Qiao was also a disciple of the Changming sect. After filling in the gaps with their imagination, they concluded that the talisman she was selling must be of good quality. Soon, they were all scrambling to buy her talismans. In no time, everything at her stall was sold out. Yao Qiao knew it was all thanks to Mu Chungi's reputation as a direct disciple of the Changming sect. She thought to herself how nice it would be to have the protection of a powerful sect. Maybe she should join a prestigious one after all. Feeling great, she hummed a tune while heading back to the inn to rest. But after taking only a few steps, someone grabbed her. She turned around and saw that it was Mu Chungi again. She wondered why he hadn't left yet and if something was wrong. Mu Chungi, looking very serious, asked her if she needed any more compensation. Yao Qiao was confused. Didn't he already give her a high spirit stones? Mu Chungi pointed to her chest and said earnestly, "But your heart was hurt, wasn't it?" Yao Qiao was speechless. She couldn't believe he had taken her joke so seriously. Given how innocent and good-looking he was, she figured he must be an important character in this novel, so she asked for his name. Though a bit puzzled about why she suddenly wanted to know, Mu Chungi answered honestly, "My name is Mu Chungi." Yao Qiao was shocked when she heard his name. It was the same name as the tragic character in the novel who ruined his path of cultivation for the sake of the heroine, Yun Qiu. She felt a bit sorry for him after remembering his fate. Coughing awkwardly to bring herself back to reality, she asked Mu Chungi if she had heard right, that he was a direct disciple of the Changming sect. She then casually asked how the outer disciples there were treated. Hearing her inquire about the sect, Mu Chungi answered truthfully, saying their sect was pretty poor. The more he thought about it, the more he felt sorry for himself. He went on to share how he joined the sect at the age of 10 and had to live off dry buns every day. Coming from a wealthy family where he never had to worry about food, he immediately felt like he had been tricked. He secretly planned with his second and third senior brothers to escape from the Changming sect, but as they were making a run for it, the sect leader spotted them and started chasing after them. In their rush, they even lost one of their shoes. As Yao Qiao pictured this scene in her mind, she couldn't help but feel speechless. To change the subject, she casually asked what the second and third senior brothers' names were. When she heard the names Ming Xian and Shui Yu, she thought to herself, "Perfect, I've got the classic backup male leads from the novel lined up." But she thought the Changming sect was dirt poor, so she immediately began considering other top sects, Wenjian sect, the #1 sect in the world, or maybe Kaifeng sect or Bihue sect. The cost of living in Cloud City was just too high. At this point, she just wanted to join a sect, stay low-key, and live a peaceful life with enough to eat and sleep. When Mu Chungi heard her say she wanted to sleep all day at Wenjian sect, he couldn't help but laugh at her naivety. He explained that in Wenjian sect, you had to work hard, or you'd get left behind. Every morning, before the sun was even up, you had to meditate and practice swordsmanship. In the afternoon, there were lessons on cultivation techniques, and at night, you'd spar with a partner. Sighing, he decided to fill her in on what life was like at the other sects as well. Then he brought up Kaifeng sect, saying it was full of people who were obsessed with appearances. They had this strict rule that ugly people weren't allowed in. After giving her a once-over, he concluded, "You're not bad-looking, but Kaifeng sect only accepts male disciples." Confused, she asked, "Wait, are they seriously discriminating based on gender?" He shook his head, explaining that it wasn't about discrimination, the sect's cultivation techniques just weren't suited for women. When he mentioned Bihue sect, he added that their disciples mostly trained solo and didn't even need to eat, they just lived off special cultivation pills. Hearing all this about the top 3 sects she had been interested in, she realized the cultivation world was way more complicated than she thought. Joining a sect was no easy task. Just as she was feeling down, he mentioned, "Honestly, though, Changming Sect has the best food. Every meal comes with at least 5 steamed buns." When she realized that there were such good perks, she immediately decided to join them, even coming up with a solid reason for it. Of course, it wasn't because of the buns, she just loved the chaotic, lively atmosphere of the sect, where something crazy was always happening. She quickly asked when she could sign up. Mu Chungi thought for a moment and said, "Actually, the deadline is tonight." Shocked, she couldn't believe it. Mu Chungi was confused by her reaction. How could she not know about this? After all, Changming Sect was one of the top 5 sects in the cultivation world. Everyone should know about the deadline for their outer disciples. Seeing her panicked expression and noticing there was only about half an hour left before sign-ups closed, Mu Chungi swiftly pulled out his sword. The blade visibly expanded as he channeled his spiritual power into it. Before she could even react, he told her to hop on, offering her a ride to the registration site. She flashed him a bright smile, sincerely thanking him and praising him for being the most reliable person she'd met. Moments later, though, a piercing scream filled the air. It was her first time standing on a flying sword, and she didn't realize until then that she was terrified of heights. The sword zoomed forward at high speed, and she became more and more terrified, gripping Mu Chungi's hair tightly. It hurt him so much that he couldn't take it anymore and had to ask her to stop pulling on his hair. When he turned to remind her, he didn't notice there was a ship in front of them. Both sides were moving fast, and before Mu Chungi could react to the warning, they were already close to the ship. At the Changming Sect, a large banner with the words "Recruiting New Members" flapped in the wind. Today was the day for outer disciple recruitment, and even though it was almost over, the place was still packed with people. Direct disciple Shui Yu was accompanying Elder Zhao at the registration booth, looking for talented disciples. As he glanced at the crowd, he thought about how their sect had ranked at the bottom for the past 100 years, unable to keep up with resources. He said bluntly to Elder Zhao, "Anyone with even slightly decent talent this year has probably gone to other sects." Elder Zhao stroked his beard and sighed. He was well aware of the situation, but they still had to try their luck. Who knows, maybe they'd find some gifted individuals. Then Elder Zhao suddenly realized he hadn't seen Mu Chungi and asked where he was. At the mention of that troublemaker, both of them looked helpless. Shui Yu guessed he was probably off playing again. All Elder Zhao could do was scold him for being irresponsible all day long. Thinking about the lazy direct disciples, Elder Zhao knew better than to count on them to win next year's competition. He might as well hope for some miracle talent to fall from the sky. Elder Zhao kept looking up at the sky, and Shui Yu curiously followed his gaze. To his surprise, he actually saw something falling. As screams and shouts to get out of the way rang out, a heavy object crashed down onto the ground. Elder Zhao and Shui Yu were both stunned by what just happened, and the crowd was buzzing with curiosity, trying to figure out what could have made such a big crater in the ground. Amid the flying dust, Mu Chungi and Yao Qiao made their grand entrance. Mu Chungi was super excited, especially about his cool landing pose, which he had even given a name, the Golden Rooster Stance. Yao Qiao, of course, immediately hyped him up for it. Seeing the huge crater they left in the plaza and how proud they were of themselves, Elder Zhao was furious and demanded if they knew how expensive it was to fix the ground. Realizing it was their fault, Yao Qiao sheepishly offered to help fill the hole. But Mu Chungi casually patted her on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry about it. It's just a hole, no big deal." Elder Zhao is definitely not a petty person. Hearing this, Elder Zhao became even angrier at Mu Chungi's carefree attitude. He was so mad that he almost felt like spitting blood. Ignoring Mu Chungi, he turned to the unfamiliar girl and asked who she was. The girl, looking totally sincere, introduced herself as Yao Qiao and said she wanted to join the Changming Sect. Elder Zhao was convinced that Yao Qiao had teamed up with Mu Chungi just to annoy him to death. Meanwhile, the outer disciples who had witnessed the scene were thinking this new girl was bold. With thousands of new disciples in the outer sect, Yao Qiao had already made herself memorable on her first day, even getting Elder Zhao so worked up. Shui Yu, who was trying to calm Elder Zhao down, thought to himself, Where did this girl come from? She's really lively. Turns out, while flying with Yao Qiao towards the Changming sect, Mu Chungi hadn't noticed a flying ship ahead and crashed right into it, sending both of them plummeting to the ground and leaving a giant crater behind. After dusting themselves off, the two made their grand debut. Seeing that Elder Zhao wasn't going to say anything, Shui Yu stepped up and said, "Yao Qiao, here's your nameplate." He handed over a nameplate with Yao Qiao's name on it and told her to keep it safe because there would be a talent assessment in a month. Yao Qiao happily accepted it and introduced herself to Shui Yu. It turned out that Shui Yu was one of the personal disciples of Changming sect, exactly the nice guy side character she remembered from the novel. As Yao Qiao examined him closely, she thought, yeah, he totally looks like a good guy. While Shui Yu, now officially deemed a good guy, was trying to communicate with his junior brother using just eye contact, it was clear from his expression that his junior brother had no idea what he meant. Left with no choice, Shui Yu directly asked his junior brother, "Where did you pick up this disciple?" Mu Chungi scratched her head and answered, "Oh, I ran into her at the black market. She mentioned wanting to join the Changming sect, so I just brought her along." Shui Yu was exasperated by how naive her junior brother was. He clenched his fist and quietly warned, "Be careful not to let people take advantage of you. Look at her, her whole outfit screams innocent." But instead of appreciating his concern, Mu Chungi's response was, "You're only suspicious because you're seeing the world through your own shady lens. Forget it. I give up." Shui Yu thought, annoyed by his cluelessness. Yao Qiao, sensing the sudden tension between the two brothers, decided to break the awkward silence. She bowed to Mu Chungi and sincerely thanked him for bringing her to the Changming sect. Shui Yu saw this and thought, here we go. As expected, she's already trying to get on Mu Chungi's good side. But then, Yao Qiao's next words totally caught his off guard. "I won't say thank you for such a big favor. I'll just take my leave now, Senior Mu. See you again." Mu Chungi, quick as a flash, grabbed Yao Qiao's arm just as she was about to leave and said, "Wait, before you go." Seeing Yao Qiao look at him in confusion, Mu Chungi felt a bit embarrassed, but finally asked, "Didn't you just earn some money at the black market earlier?" Seeing how poor she was, Mu Chungi generously offered to split the money they made, 70 to 30, with Yao Qiao getting the larger share. Yet, it seemed like even a 30% cut was too much for his junior sister to give up. Unbelievable. A personal disciple of the Changming sect fighting over a measly portion of snacks? He decided to compromise and try for an 80 to 20 split instead. But before he could even finish speaking, Yao Qiao held her storage pouch tight and insisted, "It's not about sharing money, it's a matter of survival." Mu Chungi was left speechless. He was about to let it go, when Yao Qiao, without missing a beat, said, "Oh, if you're not taking any, then I guess I'll keep it all. Good fortune like this is hard to come by, you know." Both brothers were stunned by how shameless she was. Shui Yu thought to herself, anyone else in her position would be embarrassed by now, but this girl really doesn't have any sense of shame. Guess I misjudged her. He had initially assumed that Yao Qiao, like others, was just trying to cozy up to his gullible junior brother, but clearly, that wasn't the case. Seeing that Mu Chungi no longer wanted to share, Yao Qiao quickly made her exit, worried he might change his mind if she stuck around too long. Yao Qiao soon reached the living quarters of the Changming sect's outer disciples. As she walked past, she could hear them whispering and pointing at her, saying all kinds of things like, "That's the girl who just joined and already left a huge crater in the courtyard," or "Wow, she's already caught the attention of the elders." One even said loudly, "She's just doing it for the attention." But Yao Qiao didn't feel embarrassed at all. She just strolled by as if she owned the place, completely unfazed by their remarks. Seeing her so calm and confident, the other disciples couldn't help but think, "Man, this girl's got some serious nerve." Right then, someone casually strolled up, poked her shoulder, and draped an arm over it. "Hey, did you know Mu Chungi before?" he asked, acting all buddy-buddy. He heard Yao Qiao casually say that the two of them just happened to cross paths. It made sense. After all, why would an elite disciple of the main sect hang around with mere outer disciples like her? Warming up, the guy introduced himself as Du Chun, a sword star practitioner. Yao Qiao also introduced herself, mentioning she was an orphan. Du Chun thought to himself, this girl really knows how to kill a conversation. Quickly changing the topic, he said, we've got morning classes tomorrow. Wanna head there together? Yao Qiao thought for a second. She was new here and didn't know anyone, so having someone to go with sounded like a good idea. She readily agreed. The next day, they gathered at the Changming Sect's plaza for the lesson. There was an instructor specifically for the outer disciples, teaching the Qingfeng sword technique. The lesson was so boring that Yao Qiao could barely keep her eyes open and eventually nodded off. She regretted staying up all night sketching a portrait. She glanced down at the sword manual in her hand and sighed. This cultivation world really doesn't mess around. No adjustment period at all, straight to lessons. She glanced around and saw the other disciples practicing their sword techniques. Some were trying to mimic moves while reading from their manuals. Why do all their moves look so sloppy and uncoordinated, she thought. Yao Qiao settled in, focusing on the manual's sword techniques. Suddenly, vivid images of someone gracefully performing the technique started playing in her mind. The more she read, the more absorbed she became, the lifeless text coming alive as animated demonstrations in her head. She was so mesmerized that she didn't even notice someone tapping her shoulder. It was Du Chun, checking in after seeing Yao Qiao standing there like a statue for nearly an hour. Did you get it? Du Chun asked. Snapping back to reality, Yao Qiao realized the images had disappeared. She shook her head. I think I understand it, but I haven't actually tried it yet. She didn't dare claim she'd mastered the technique after just reading it once. I'll try it out later and see, she thought. Du Chun had no idea what Yao Qiao was really thinking and just saw her shaking her head. He smiled and tried to encourage her, saying, don't worry, it's only been an afternoon. There's no way you'd master the Qingfeng sword technique that quickly. Besides, it's better to stay low-key here in the outer sect, especially when some of the other disciples come from influential families. Yao Qiao appreciated his reminder and thanked him, thinking to herself, yeah, he's right. It's better to keep a low profile, otherwise, I'll just become a target. Being average isn't so bad. I only want to get through my time in the outer sect peacefully, anyway. Just then, their lesson ended, and it was time to head to the cafeteria for a meal. When she heard cafeteria, Yao Qiao immediately searched her memory for information about it. But before she could get far, she heard someone calling her name from behind. She turned around and was surprised to see Mu Chungi. Yao Qiao noticed that Mu Chungi seemed really enthusiastic and even offered to show her around. Noticing the sword he carried, Yao Qiao curiously asked, "Is that your personal sword?" Yao Qiao was thinking about how unique the materials used for swords in the cultivation world were. Even the most basic black iron swords were pretty impressive. So, what would a finely crafted spirit sword be like? Mu Chungi didn't mind her curiosity and proudly introduced his sword. "This is my personal sword, the Chaoshi sword. It's ranked third on the spirit sword list and was a gift from my master." When Yao Qiao said she wanted to touch the Chaoshi sword, Mu Chungi tightly gripped the hilt. This sword's like my partner, he thought, and couldn't believe Yao Qiao had just casually asked if she could touch his partner. After a moment of hesitation, Mu Chungi reluctantly handed over the sword but repeatedly emphasized, "Just one touch, okay?" Yao Qiao reached out and gently ran her fingers along the blade, feeling a bone-chilling coldness radiating from it. Mu Chungi was surprised that Yao Qiao could even touch his sword at all. Normally, spirit swords have tempers of their own, especially one as powerful as the Chaoshi sword. Mu Chungi voiced her confusion aloud. The Chaoshi sword was forged from thousand-year-old ice. Usually, anyone who tries to touch it gets thrown back. I can't believe it's staying calm this time. Yao Qiao playfully joked, "Guess it just means I'm well-liked, huh?" Before long, they arrived at the cafeteria. Watching Yao Qiao happily munching on her buns, even Mu Chungi, who was usually laid back, couldn't help but marvel. It was his first time seeing someone eat that much. Mu Chungi then asked if Yao Qiao was training in both sword techniques and talisman arts. Yao Qiao managed to answer while still chewing on her buns, handling both the food and conversation effortlessly. She explained she was just casually dabbling in it and could only draw the most basic talismans so far. She thought to herself, I've never even seen a real talisman master before. I'm just winging it with the original Yao Qiao's memories. I'm definitely not a real talisman cultivator. Hearing that, Mu Chungi suggested she should seek guidance from Ming Xian if she really wanted to learn. But he warned that Ming Xian is a direct descendant of one of the top 8 families and the only talisman cultivator in their generation. He's known to be arrogant and very difficult to get along with. He usually only hangs out with his third senior brother. When Yao Qiao heard the name of Ming Xian, she remembered him as the male supporting character from the novel, one of the top talents in the talisman arts. Later on, he was unable to break through in his cultivation and ended up falling to the dark side, becoming a young master of the demon clan. In the story, the demonized Ming Xian falls in love at first sight with the female lead, Yun Qiu, and starts competing with a bunch of other guys for her affection. Thinking about how Ming Xian fell to the dark side, and how Mu Chungi ended up destroying his own cultivation and turning into an ordinary person, Yao Qiao couldn't help but wonder, why did all these promising young talents end up with such tragic fates? Did they really have to go through all that just to make the female lead shine brighter? Whatever, I'm not going to overthink it. My goal now is just to live a laid-back, worry-free life. 2 months later, in the outer sect of the Changming sect, Duchun knocked on her door, urging her to wake up. He told Yao Qiao that senior brother Ming Xian and senior brother Shui Yu were going to pick in a sect disciples from the outer sect and that Elder Zhao wanted them to gather at the square. Even though Yao Qiao knew Duchun meant well, she still felt a bit annoyed at having her sweet dream interrupted. She stretched lazily, letting out a big yawn. Yao Qiao told Duchun she'd get up right away. She realized that, without noticing, she'd already been at Changming sect for 2 months. Even though she had to train with the sword every day, apart from that, no one really bothered her about how much she slept. This was exactly the kind of lifestyle she wanted. Lazy people have their own ways of cultivating. To avoid getting kicked out for having poor skills, she set up a spirit gathering array in her room using some captured items. Now, even while sleeping, the spiritual energy would automatically flow into her body, which allowed her to progress from Qi refining stage 3 to Qi refining stage 5 effortlessly. When they arrived at the square, Yao Qiao immediately spotted 2 guys standing out from the crowd. Duchun, looking excited, told her, the one on the left is senior brother Shui, and the one on the right is senior brother Ming. Yao Qiao had met Shui Yu before, so the other guy must be Ming Xian. Hearing Duchun gush over how handsome Ming Xian was, and mentioning that many of the female cultivators in Changming sect wanted to marry him, Yao Qiao couldn't help but sigh, knowing the plot really isn't always a good thing. She helplessly replied, well, they might end up disappointed. Then she added, senior brother Ming's mental state is unstable. Who knows when he might lose control and end up turning into a demon? Yao Qiao was referring to how Ming Xian, in the novel, eventually fell into the demonic path after years of being unable to break through his cultivation stage. She hadn't spoken loudly, and with so many people around, she didn't expect her offhand comment to reach Ming Xian's ears. But somehow, it did. He looked over at her, puzzled. How could she possibly know about his unstable mental state? Just then, Shui Yu nudged him lightly on the shoulder and whispered, hey, isn't that the outer sect disciple I told you about before? She's kind of interesting, right? Ming Xian, surprised, asked, that's the sweet potato landmine girl? Shui Yu reminded his second senior brother not to talk about girls like that, but Ming Xian just shrugged it off, saying, she's basically cursed me to become a demon someday, and I can't even call her short. Just then, their third senior brother chimed in earnestly, girls are the most adorable creatures in the world. If I had a little sister, I'd give her everything I have. He then started daydreaming about the imaginary little sister he had no idea where to find. Ming Xian ignored his third senior brother's antics and turned to Elder Zhao, asking what path Yao Qiao was cultivating. Elder Zhao seemed a little puzzled about why Ming Xian would ask about her, but he still answered, explaining that she was training in the sword arts. Her performance was average, nothing exceptional compared to the top outer sect disciples. The key thing was that after sword practice every day, she'd go straight back to her place to sleep. He couldn't figure out what she could be sleeping so much for and thought she lacked ambition. Ming Xian's curiosity deepened. Not only did this outer sect girl see through his hidden weakness, but now he learned she was just a mediocre student with no drive. Deciding to focus on selecting inner sect disciples with his third senior brother first, he figured he'd deal with this mystery girl later. After some careful selection, Ming Xian and his third senior brother went to the main peak of Changming Sect to report to their master that they'd completed choosing the inner sect disciples for this batch. Sect Master Qin Fan didn't directly address them. Instead, he paced back and forth in front of them, sighing. I heard the Yuching sect recently picked up a top-tier water spirit root disciple. Yunhen brought him back from the mortal world. Do you know how rare water spirit roots of this quality are? And yet, Yuching sect managed to snatch him up first. Look at you two. When will you finally bring some honor to this sect? The two disciples stood there, appearing obedient and listening to their master's lecture. But in reality, it was going in one ear and out the other. Sect Master Qin thought to himself, Changming sect isn't lacking in talent, but every year we lose face in the sect competitions to other sects. Then he remembered his personal disciples, Mu Chungi and Ming Xian, who couldn't even get along with each other and were constantly fighting. They're a headache. And my first disciple, Ju Xingyun, the one with the highest cultivation, always looks like he's on the brink of death, as if he might leave this world at any moment. Sigh. At least Shui Yu is somewhat normal. Today was shaping up to be quite the eventful day. Mu Chunxi's cheerful voice snapped Sect Master Qin back to reality. He asked brightly, Master, is there something you need? Seeing his youngest disciple only made Sect Master Qin more frustrated. Pointing an accusing finger at him, he shouted, You little brat. Can't you cause me a little less trouble? Running down the mountain every day with that outer sect disciple Yao Qiao. What's down there, your mom and dad? Hearing his master scold him right off the bat, Mu Chungi felt incredibly wronged and spoke up defensively, Nobody else is willing to hang out with me besides Yao Qiao. Look at Ming Xian and Shui Yu over there, they're always sticking together like two peas in a pod. He then turned and complained to his master, Senior brother Ju is never around, and everyone in both the inner and outer sects avoids me because I'm one of your personal disciples. Only Yao Qiao's willing to keep me company. The more Mu Chungi talked, the more he started to feel pitiful, as if he'd really been wronged. Seeing this, Sect Master Qin coughed and decided to change the subject. The reason I called you here today is to ask if you'd like a new junior sister or junior brother. I'm planning to take on another personal disciple. After saying that, he thought to himself, there are only 9 months left until the sect competition, and I still haven't found a suitable disciple to take on. I might as well ask for their opinions. Hearing that their master wanted to take on a new disciple and was even asking for their input, Mu Chungi was the first to speak up. Of course it has to be a junior sister. All the other sects have junior sisters, but look at us, nothing but a bunch of stinky guys. Even the dull swordsmen over at the Wenjian sect have junior sisters. Ming Xian instinctively retorted, You say that like you're not one of us. Meanwhile, Shui Yu ignored the bickering duo and calmly stated his position, No junior brothers, please. Just look at how annoying Mu Chungi is. Even the big yellow dog at the gate can't stand him. Not cute at all, Shui Yu concluded firmly. Finally, he shared his main point, I just prefer girls. Sect Master Qin stroked his beard, thinking he made a fair point. After all, he already had 4 male disciples. Maybe it really was time to take on a female disciple. Sect Master Qin then asked his disciples who they thought would make a good choice. There were a few talented candidates from the outer sect this year, and a few promising young girls in the inner sect as well. Without a moment's hesitation, Mu Chungi immediately recommended Yao Qiao. Even Shui Yu, who's usually more reliable, nodded in agreement. Master, I think Yao Qiao's a great pick, he said, echoing Mu Chungi's suggestion. Though he hadn't known why, he had a gut feeling that this new junior sister would liven things up around the sect, and Shuiyu was all about a lively atmosphere. Shuiyu eagerly continued to pitch Yao Qiao's advantages to their master, trying to make his case even stronger. He even turned to his usual partner in crime, Ming Xian, for his opinion. Ming Xian, already curious about this girl, figured that having Yao Qiao as a junior sister would make it easier to keep an eye on her. After a brief moment of thought, he agreed with the others. Seeing that all three of his disciples were rooting for Yao Qiao, Sect Master Qin still felt a bit uneasy. He had heard that Yao Qiao wasn't particularly talented and spent her days lazing around, often dragging Mu Chungi down the mountain with her. When the master fell silent at the mention of Yao Qiao's name, Mu Chungi jumped back in and pushed even harder for her. "Come on, master! Our sect's been at the bottom for years. There's no way we're going to find some genius this year. Yao Qiao's just fine, at least she's lively and interesting." Sect Master Qin thought Mu Chungi's reasoning was a bit strange, but after mulling it over, he had to admit that there was some truth to it. After all, Changming sect had been dead last for the past century. Who the fifth personal disciple was didn't seem that important anymore. Once Sect Master Qin came to terms with that, he finally let it go and decided not to fight it anymore. Let them be as they are, he thought. We've already given up on competing seriously in this sect, so why stress over it? The night sky was dotted with countless stars, and the outer sect disciples' rooms were brightly lit. Yao Qiao, clueless about the storm brewing around her, yawned and finally climbed into the bed she'd been looking forward to all day. She kicked off her small boots and burrowed into the warm covers, thinking she could finally get some sleep. But her sweet slumber was cut short by a sudden, rapid knocking on her door. A loud voice from outside called out, "Yao Qiao, the sect master wants to see you right away. Head to the main peak now." Yao Qiao blinked in confusion. She'd only been in the sect for 2 months and had barely interacted with anyone besides a few outer disciples and elders. So why on earth would the sect master, someone at the very top, want to meet her? She had a bad feeling about this. But no matter what was going on in her mind, she had no choice but to get up and go meet the sect master. Step by step, she trudged up the staircase, feeling absolutely exhausted. I knew this wasn't going to be good news. Couldn't they consider that some of us can't just fly up there? I have to climb all these steps by foot, she grumbled silently. The more she thought about it, the more annoyed she got. To distract herself, she tried to look on the bright side. Well, I guess making this climb up the 900 steps to meet the sect master is kinda like the emperor walking to the throne room every day, right? It's not all bad. With that bit of self-consolation, Yao Qiao finally reached the main peak and spotted the sect master and his 3 beloved disciples waiting for her. She was dead tired, hungry, and still half asleep, but she managed to muster up a greeting. "Hello, sect master." "Hello, senior brothers." Sect Master Qin looked at the little girl in front of him, who seemed barely able to keep her eyes open. He thought to himself, the rumors were spot on, this kid really doesn't have any drive. Nighttime is when the spiritual energy is at its peak, and here she is, wasting such precious time sleeping. Putting aside his thoughts, the sect master softened his expression and asked kindly, "Yao Qiao, would you like to become a direct disciple?" Yao Qiao, who had been half awake just a moment ago, was suddenly wide awake. Internally, she was screaming, "What did I do to deserve this? They're going to make me a personal disciple, aren't they?" Sect Master Qin continued, introducing her to the 3 disciples standing nearby. "These are your senior brothers, you've probably seen them around before." Yao Qiao wished she could just pretend she didn't hear anything. Maybe if she acted like this whole conversation never happened, she could get out of it somehow. Seeing Yi Qiao's silence, Sect Master Qin assumed she was just being shy. He glanced at Mu Chungi and thought, of course she knows him. Just the other day they went down the mountain together. Yi Qiao, still trying to process everything, was in disbelief. So Mu Chungi is my senior brother now. Meanwhile, Mu Chungi interpreted her speechlessness as excitement, thinking she was too happy to even speak. Little did he know, her carefree life had just been interrupted by this sudden promotion to a personal disciple. Yi Qiao's miserable expression was being completely misread as shyness and excitement. At this point, Yi Qiao gave up trying to explain. Whatever, let them think what they want, she thought. Sect Master Qin, believing Yi Qiao was overwhelmed with joy, stroked his beard and said, "Yi Qiao, pack up. Starting tomorrow, you'll be moving into the inner courtyard." This was beyond ridiculous, but Yi Qiao knew there was no escaping it now. Resigned, she bowed and replied, "Yes, Master." Even her almost teary, frustrated look was misinterpreted as gratitude by Sect Master Qin. She may not be the most talented, but at least she knows how to appreciate this opportunity, he thought. Somehow, Yi Qiao made her way back to her room, crawled into bed, but couldn't sleep. Normally, she would have been out like a light, but tonight? Her mind was racing. How had things spiraled this far? She knew being a direct disciple wasn't going to be easy. Extra lessons, non-stop training, and even worse, the inner sect elder would personally train her reflexes, which meant getting hit during practice every single day. She remembered how she had once tried to comfort someone in this exact situation, but now it was her turn to face the hardship. "I can't even think about it, or I'll start crying." The next day, the entire outer sect was buzzing with the news of Yi Qiao becoming a direct disciple. Where there are people, there's drama, especially when it concerns personal interests. Some grumbled, "She wasn't even as skilled as me before." Some people insisted that Yi Qiao must have pulled some strings to get in. "She's not talented, her assessment scores were awful, and if they were going to pick a direct disciple, it should have been from the inner sect, right?" someone said, stirring up trouble. "Yeah, why not senior sister Ning? She's way more qualified." They were talking about Ning Qing, a top inner sect disciple from the Changming sect. Meanwhile, Yi Qiao, now the center of attention and controversy, was in her room, letting her only friend from the outer sect, Du Chun, help her pack. Seeing her lackluster expression, Du Chun teased, "Well, look at you. Quietly leveling up to become a direct disciple, huh?" Hearing the words direct disciple only made Yi Qiao feel even more helpless. No one understood how she was really feeling. Usually so carefree and energetic, today she was just totally deflated. Du Chun went ahead and pinched her cheeks, saying, "Come on, smile a little. What's with the long face?" But seeing the awkward, miserable grin Yi Qiao forced out, he quickly backed off. "Okay, forget it. Just don't smile," he laughed. Yi Qiao then handed him a stack of magical talismans and told him to stick them by his bed. "You can cultivate while lying down with these." "Wait, really?" Du Chun looked skeptical. "Are you serious? You can actually cultivate by just lying down?" Yi Qiao, feeling a bit better, threw her bag over her shoulder and said, "Try it and see for yourself." After saying goodbye, she left the room. Just as she opened the door, she heard a sharp swish. She looked up to find a sword pointed directly at her face. Standing there was Ning Qing, the inner sect disciple everyone had been talking about. Glaring at Yi Qiao, she demanded, "What makes you think you deserve to be a direct disciple? Is it just because of your relationship with senior brother Mu?" Ning Qing's voice grew harsher as she spoke, her anger escalating. "You, a useless waste with second-rate spiritual roots, think you deserve to move to the main peak and train alongside senior brother Ming Xian?" Yi Qiao didn't pay any attention to the aggressive senior sister standing before her. She pushed the sword away gently and said, "Can we just talk this out? It's against sect rules to draw your sword without reason." With a deep sigh, she added wistfully, "Nobody knows how much I envy you." Ning Qing was caught off guard by her words, and then immediately asked, annoyed, "Envy me? For what? Are you jealous that I didn't end up as a direct disciple or something?" But Yi Qiao, looking utterly defeated, just shook her head. "No, I envy all those people who don't have to work hard at all." Ning Qing thought Yi Qiao was out of her mind. What's wrong with her, she wondered. Neither of them noticed that someone had suddenly appeared behind them. Zhu Xingyun, a direct disciple of the Changming sect. He didn't even look their way. He just stared intently at the flower in his hand and, without much emotion, said 2 words. "Let's go." Both Yi Qiao and Ning Qing jumped in surprise and turned to look at Zhu Xingyun, having no idea when he had arrived. Yi Qiao stepped forward obediently, calling out sweetly, "Senior brother." She noticed that his attention was completely absorbed by the flower. She'd already met Mingxian and Mu Chungi, but this was her first time seeing Zhu Xingyun. Remembering his character from the novel, a brooding, almost melancholic guy who was always on the brink of wanting to end it all, Yi Qiao got lost in her thoughts. In the story, it was the female protagonist who ended up saving him, and he eventually became a loyal member of her harem. Caught up in these thoughts, Yi Qiao didn't notice that a strand of her hair had popped up awkwardly. Zhu Xingyun, spotting the rebellious strand, suddenly had the urge to smooth it down. But when the strand kept bouncing back, he could barely control his twitching fingers. Unable to hold back anymore, Zhu Xingyun reached out and pressed down the unruly lock of hair. Yi Qiao stared at him in confusion. It was their first time meeting, after all. But Zhu Xingyun couldn't explain what was going on. He was too busy fighting with that defiant strand of hair. The moment he let go, it sprang right back up again. Suppressing his irritation, he tried smoothing it down once more. And once more, it bounced back. Zhu Xingyun's patience finally snapped as he stared at that single stubborn strand, standing tall like it owned the place. Yi Qiao couldn't help but think senior brother must have OCD, given how fixated he was on trying to smooth down her hair. Desperate to get away from the annoying strand that was driving him crazy, Zhu Xingyun grabbed Yi Qiao and flew straight to the main peak at top speed. When they arrived, he unceremoniously handed her over to Shui Yu and took off without a word. Watching him hurry away, Shui Yu felt like something about senior brother was off. But before he could figure it out, he heard the sounds of Yi Qiao throwing up. He immediately asked if Yi Qiao was okay, worried. Meanwhile, Yi Qiao was silently cursing Zhu Xingyun for flying way too fast. What she didn't know was that Zhu Xingyun was holding back an intense urge. He really wanted to chop off that stubborn strand of hair with his sword. Seeing Yi Qiao's pale face, Shui Yu quickly started taking care of his little junior sister. He had been looking forward to the new addition bringing some excitement to the sect. After some rest, Yi Qiao finally felt better. Curious, she turned to Shui Yu and asked, "Hey, do we have some kind of induction ceremony for new disciples?" Shui Yu paused slightly, then replied honestly, "Nope, we don't have any induction ceremonies. At least, none of the 4 of us did." Yi Qiao recalled how, in the original novel, the female protagonist, Yin Qiu, had been welcomed as a direct disciple with a grand ceremony that attracted well-wishers from all over. Why was the Changming sect's process so low-key? She voiced her confusion. Why do other sects have such grand ceremonies, but not us? Shui Yu awkwardly coughed and finally said, "Maybe we're just low on funds." When she heard Shui Yu's blunt response, Yi Qiao quickly translated it in her mind to, "We're poor, plain and simple." In the cultivation world, sects with the most money are usually the ones with more specialized cultivators or lucrative professions. But Changming's sect has very few specialists, so naturally, they don't have as much cash as other sects. Seeing his junior sister's disappointed expression, Shui Yu quickly changed the subject, saying that they only had 2 classes to attend, the mind arts class and the training class. Noticing that Yi Qiao still looked pretty down, Shui Yu added that both classes would be taught by the elders. If she had any questions, she could ask them or come to him for help. Wait. This is starting to sound like high school all over again, thought Yi Qiao, feeling like she was on the verge of breaking down. What kind of bad luck did she have? She'd barely escaped the prison of high school a few years ago, only to end up in another prison after crossing over to this world. Just then, a dense surge of spiritual energy rushed towards her, completely grabbing her attention. Now she understood why the cultivation of direct disciples far surpassed that of regular ones. It was thanks to this insane amount of spiritual energy. Seeing Yi Qiao's surprise at the chaotic spiritual energy, Shui Yu handed her a bottle containing stabilizing pills, telling her to take one. "It'll help you feel much better." Yi Qiao took the bottle with both hands and suddenly remembered reading about these pills in the original novel. They could stabilize spiritual energy, making it easier for someone with an unstable foundation to strengthen their cultivation rapidly. No matter how good a pill is, it's only useful once it's in your belly, right? With that thought, she swallowed one without hesitation. According to the novel, this type of pill was so precious that even the Changming sect's top disciples could only produce 3 batches within 3 years, and all of it was gifted to the female lead. Yunqiu Yiqiao never thought she'd get a share. She genuinely thanked Shui Yu for it. When Shui Yu heard Yiqiao's compliment about how kind he was, he felt satisfied. Junior sister's so sweet, not only cute but also polite, unlike that greedy Mu Chungi, who only knows how to ask for things. Totally different. Suddenly, a shrill scream echoed from the sky, and Yiqiao turned toward it, only catching a glimpse of a blur racing past. Wow, that bird person's fast, she thought, just before hearing a loud thud as something heavy crashed to the ground. It startled her so much she jumped. Startled, Yiqiao turned to see the figure struggling to get up. Only then did she realize it was none other than her youngest senior brother, Mu Chungi. After standing up, Mu Chungi seemed embarrassed, so he angrily pointed at his archenemy, second senior brother Ming Xian, and yelled, "Ming Xian! You wanna fight?" Ming Xian's smile vanished instantly, and he pulled out some talismans from his sleeve. "Fight? Sure, like I'm scared of you." Watching the two of them look like they were ready to kill each other, Yiqiao thought, geez, these two really do hate each other. I wonder if they're secretly hoping to stab each other one day. Curious, she turned to third senior brother and asked, are they always like this? Shui Yu, looking unfazed, replied, yep. Just let them finish fighting, nothing to worry about. He really doesn't get it, thought Yiqiao, eyes lighting up with excitement. Really? They're going to fight? Oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun. I've never seen people fight before, she exclaimed, practically vibrating with energy. Shui Yu glanced at his little junior sister, feeling like something was off. Why did he get the sense she was a bit too excited? Yiqiao suddenly realized she wasn't hiding her excitement well, so she quickly put on a tragic expression and repeated, oh no, this is so sad. Seriously? Shui Yu was speechless. Don't think I can't tell you're itching to see them fight just because you changed your expression. He immediately stepped in to separate the two before they started throwing punches. All right, enough. Stop arguing and get inside the training hall. Elder Du and Yu will be here any minute. Inside the training hall, a few disciples were already practicing their swordsmanship. Elder Du and Yu, the man in charge of their training, was a burly guy with a scruffy beard. He walked over and gave Yiqiao a once-over. You're the new one, kid? Yiqiao hadn't even gotten a chance to reply when she suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed onto the ground. Everyone, including Elder Du and Yu, was stunned. Even Mu Chungi, who usually liked to stir up trouble, mumbled under his breath, Elder, she's not me. You've been beating me up for years now. She's only been here a day. Go easy on her. Yiqiao shot Mu Chungi a grateful look, thinking, at least someone's looking out for me. Elder Du and Yu awkwardly laughed it off, of course, I know what I'm doing. He handed Yiqiao a booklet titled Wind Step Manual. This will help you increase your speed. All the direct disciples have a copy. Your senior brothers have already mastered it, so you better find some time to practice. Yiqiao hugged the booklet and nodded obediently. Apparently, Elder Du and Yu had already heard about her reputation for slacking off in the outer sect. He even warned her that he'd check on her progress in 3 days, and anyone who couldn't keep up should be ready to get kicked by him. The mention of kicking got Yiqiao curious. What kind of kick are we talking about here, she thought. But just then, Elder Du and Yu's gaze shifted to Mu Chungi, who was still lingering nearby. Annoyed, he raised his foot and delivered a hard kick to Mu Chungi's backside, yelling, why are you still standing around? Get moving. What are you standing around for? Hurry up and train. Mu Chungi, who'd just been kicked through the air, rubbed his sore backside and grumbled, Elder, can't you talk like a normal person? You don't have to go so hard. Seeing this, Yi Qiao's face turned pale. Sure, she might be lazy sometimes, but she definitely didn't like getting kicked. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Everyone was training hard, and Yi Qiao was already pushing herself to her limit, running as fast as she could. Elder Duanyu's voice echoed behind her, urging her to go faster. Feeling like she was about to get kicked again, she immediately activated her wind step technique and dodged just in time. At that moment, she finally understood the true purpose of this technique. Learning wind step helped she dodge kicks faster. Mu Chungi, who was running alongside her, grabbed her and kept urging, "Don't slack off. We're not done yet. If you don't want to get kicked, just keep up with me." The two of them sprinted forward without daring to stop, with Elder Duanyu chasing them from behind, making sure they didn't let up. Ming Xian, who was a spirit cultivator and didn't have to go through this kind of training, was lounging around, sipping tea and throwing in some sarcastic comments here and there. He would constantly tease Yi Qiao with things like, "Oh look, the little potatoes here," or "Why are you so short?" or "What, does your family not feed you?" Yi Qiao clenched her teeth, trying to keep calm. She kept telling herself over and over, "If others get mad, I won't get mad." Getting sick from anger helps no one. Ming Xian might be super talented and the type to always have time for Schadenfreude, but she was sure of one thing: he was absolutely annoying. Day after day, this became their routine. Then, one day during a class on cultivation techniques, Yi Qiao found herself spacing out again, daydreaming. She couldn't help but think, Elder Duanyu's training is really paying off. With the help of the wind elemental energy, I actually managed to progress from level 5 of Qi refining to level 9 in just 2 months. Elder Zhao glanced down and immediately noticed Yi Qiao, who was zoning out. Without skipping a beat, he called on her to answer the question he'd just asked. If she couldn't answer it, she'd be stuck cleaning the library later. Yi Qiao stood up nervously. She hadn't been paying attention at all and had no idea what the question was. What does Elder Zhao have against me? She wondered, frustrated that he always picked on her. She glanced at Ming Xian, who was yawning lazily. Thinking fast and determined to save herself, she pointed at her second senior brother and said loudly, "Elder Zhao, Ming Xian said he knows the answer." Elder Zhao looked over at the now dazed Ming Xian and said, "All right then, let's have Ming Xian demonstrate it for the class." Ming Xian's eyes widened as he stared at Yi Qiao, completely stunned by her betrayal. Seeing him stand up, Yi Qiao sighed in relief, giving him an innocent smile. She leaned over and whispered, "Come on, second senior brother, who else is going to take one for the team if not you? You're our Sect's shining star, after all. You can handle a little extra work." Yi Qiao's mischievous smile only grew. Senior brothers are meant to be used as shields, she thought. It's not like she was doing this out of pure spite. It was payback for him calling her names like potato and dynamite. Halfway through the lecture, she started feeling drowsy again. Her head drooped as she struggled to stay awake. Ming Xian, noticing this, knew it was his chance. He whispered softly into Yi Qiao's ear, "Little junior sister, class is over." Yi Qiao, who was half asleep, was super sensitive to the words of "class is over." She immediately snapped awake, jumping up so fast that she knocked her desk over with a loud bang. Yi Qiao instinctively tried to bolt for the cafeteria, but before she could take off, Ming Xian grabbed her arm. She immediately got a bad feeling. Turning around, she saw Shui Yu and the others all sitting quietly in their seats. Wait a minute. Class wasn't over at all. Elder Zhao narrowed his eyes at her and asked sharply, "Yi Qiao, why did you stand up? Are you that dissatisfied with my teaching that you had to kick over your desk to spice things up?" Seeing her getting scolded, Ming Xian finally cracked a smile. "Justice has been served, junior sister," he teased. But his smugness didn't last long. Elder Zhao pointed at him too and said furiously, "And you? Can't even answer a basic question. Both of you, head to the library to clean up after class." Ming Xian's smile vanished instantly, while Yi Qiao, who had been sulking, suddenly broke into a grin. She taunted, "What goes around comes around, senior brother. Karma's a real thing, huh? With no good comeback, Mingxian just dropped his fan and sulked. After class, the two of them headed to the library together, looking like a pair of defeated troublemakers. The librarian glanced at Yi Qiao and sighed, back to sweeping again, huh? Yi Qiao thought to herself, ever since I started taking Elder Zhao's cultivation classes, I've been stuck cleaning this place for over 10 days straight. If I can't answer his questions, I'll never get out of this trouble. When they arrived, Mingxian, who had never done manual labor in his life, refused to lift a finger. Yi Qiao, equally unmotivated, was sweeping half-heartedly. As her broom brushed against his foot, she snapped, "Move it!" Mingxian held back his irritation and silently stepped aside, but he could feel his little junior sister's intense gaze on him. To reassert his authority, he cleared his throat and reminded her, "You know, I'm the only alchemist in training in our entire sect." He paused, then added, "And remember, I'm still your second senior brother." Does this brat even know how to respect her seniors? He wondered. Yi Qiao leaned lazily against her broom, sarcastically clapping her hands. "Wow, you're just so amazing," she said with a mocking tone. Mingxian felt the sting of her words and thought she was trying to pick a fight. The two locked eyes, neither one backing down, having a silent standoff through their glares. The librarian, seeing the two of them just wasting time like that, reminded them, "No lunch until the place is spotless." Without missing a beat, Yi Qiao threw her broom aside and flopped down on the ground. "If he's not sweeping, then I'm not sweeping either," she declared. Time crawled by, and about an hour later, neither of them had budged. Finally, Mingxian's stomach let out a loud growl. He couldn't take it anymore. "I'm starving," he admitted. Hearing this, Yi Qiao quickly sat up and chimed in, "Same here." Mingxian cleared his throat and suggested, "How about we just get this over with?" This time, he picked up his broom first, and Yi Qiao, seeing him take the lead, agreed without any fuss. The two of them immediately reached a silent understanding. Brooms in hand, they started sweeping like maniacs, determined to finish up and dash to the cafeteria as soon as possible. They were bouncing around, stirring up so much dust that the librarian, who had been reading quietly, suddenly coughed. When he looked up, he saw the previously lazy duo now darting around like two wild mantises. In no time, they haphazardly swept through 2 whole floors. Without waiting for the librarian's approval, they blurted out that they'd come back to finish up after lunch and bolted towards the cafeteria like they were on wheels, disappearing in an instant. Watching them disappear, the librarian twitched his lips in annoyance. "They're like starving ghosts in a past life. Those two are hopeless," he muttered to himself, shaking his head. Then he yelled into the empty space around him, "So this is that promising talent you were talking about? Promising my foot. She's like a reincarnated glutton, that's what she is." At that moment, Elder Duan stepped out from the shadows, clearly having witnessed the whole scene. Stroking his chin, he commented with a smirk, "Yi Qiao has an incredible memory, practically photographic. Even Mu Chungi, who's notorious for being stubborn, took more than 10 days to master the wind step technique. But Yi Qiao? She got it down in just 3 days. That's why I suggested to Elder Zhao that she should spend more time in the library. With such a talent, it would be a shame to waste it. I thought she'd be reading more while cleaning the place, but nope, she just sweeps and dashes off." The librarian then voiced his doubts. If she's got such a great memory, shouldn't she have aced the outer sect exams? How come her results are always so average? Elder Duan, thinking about Yi Qiao's recent grades, suddenly fell silent, starting to wonder if his judgment might have been off after all. Later that evening, after finishing dinner, the two of them headed back to the library as part of their punishment. By then, it was already dark, and the moon was peeking over the treetops. Yi Qiao, feeling full and energized, exclaimed, "I'm ready to go now that I've eaten." Mingxian glanced at his junior sister, who was yawning as she muttered, "Only 2 more floors to sweep and then we can go to bed." He couldn't help but wonder, are girls this young supposed to eat so much? In his memory, the girls from the inner sect barely ate 2 bites before getting full, but this little junior sister had just wolfed down 5 buns in one sitting. Thinking about sleep seemed to give Yi Qiao a burst of motivation. She grabbed her broom and yelled to her second senior brother, "Let's get started on the third floor." The third floor was packed with neatly arranged records. She casually picked one up and asked, "Where are all these books from?" Ming Xian said proudly, "These books have been passed down from our grandmaster's generation. Each one is a unique copy. Only direct disciples can access this library. Outer and inner sect disciples don't even have the privilege to sweep the floors here." Yi Qiao pointed at a page in one of the books, curiosity in her eyes. "So, what's this fire control talisman used for? It looks pretty valuable." Ming Xian glanced at the runes on the page, raising an eyebrow. "Why's a sword cultivator like you interested in something like this?" Without missing a beat, Yi Qiao launched into a well-crafted response. "Even though I'm a sword cultivator, I've always had a fascination with talisman techniques, especially after I heard about how amazing second senior brother is at it." Her flattery seemed to work like a charm. Under her admiring gaze, Ming Xian cleared his throat and said, "All right, pay attention. I'll show you how it's done." He then started drawing the talisman. His movements were fast and precise, and it was a good thing Yi Qiao had a great memory, or else she wouldn't have been able to follow his wild strokes. Before long, Ming Xian announced, "This is how you make the fire control talisman." He snapped his fingers, and the talisman burst into flames like a magic trick, instantly heating up the room. As she watched the flame light up at his fingertips, Yi Qiao thought to herself, "This is amazing. Talisman techniques are seriously cool." Yi Qiao clapped enthusiastically, adding to the praise. Ming Xian, caught up in the excitement of his junior sister's compliments, suddenly felt like she might not be so bad after all. "If you want to learn more, I can teach you," he offered. Yi Qiao, being someone who knew how to appreciate an opportunity, immediately thanked him. She thought she had memorized the process to make the fire control talisman, so she picked up a brush and said confidently, "I think I got it. No need to teach me again." Then, she replicated Ming Xian's steps. A faint flame flickered on the talisman paper, so fragile that it looked like it could go out at any second. Ming Xian was stunned. He didn't expect her to succeed on her first try. But as he stared at the tiny flame swirling on the paper, he quickly shouted, "Wait! This spirit fire is alive, it can move on its own." Before Yi Qiao could celebrate, the flame suddenly leapt off the talisman. Ming Xian dodged to the side, but the bookshelf behind him wasn't so lucky. In an instant, the spirit fire flared up like a wildfire, spreading fast. Ming Xian, quick on his feet, summoned a massive water ball and hurled it at the flames, putting them out just in time. The two had barely caught their breath when the furious voice of the librarian roared from behind them. "What are you two doing playing with fire in the library? Have you lost your minds?" he yelled, his face flushed with anger and his mustache bristling. Grabbing them by their collars, he barked, "Or do you have some kind of issue with me? Speak up!" Yi Qiao and Ming Xian were both guilt-ridden, one of them mumbling, "No, we don't," and the other stammering, "We wouldn't dare." The librarian scoffed, so mad he actually laughed. "You wouldn't dare? Then why were you burning things?" The fire had already spread in mere seconds. Over a dozen books had been scorched, some even glued together after being soaked by the water. One glance was enough to know they were completely ruined. Watching the scene before him, the librarian felt his heart ache. Yi Qiao realized just how serious things were. She knew these books were all one of a kind, and seeing the librarian's devastated expression made her conscience twinge with guilt. Yi Qiao hesitated for a moment before asking the elder, "Do you have a memory stone?" She figured that since the books were one of a kind, they must have been recorded with a memory stone. Otherwise, if anything went wrong, it would be a huge loss. The librarian, with tears still wet at the corners of his eyes, heard her question about the memory stone and snapped back, "What do you even need a memory stone for? You can only view it once, and after that, it's useless. Plus, those things are crazy expensive. Do you seriously think you can memorize everything in just one viewing?" Knowing she was at fault, Yi Qiao nervously offered a suggestion. "How about this, if you trust me, give me the memory stones for these books, and I promise I'll copy everything down, word for word." Hearing her promise, the librarian was shocked but remembered that Elder Duan had once mentioned Yi Qiao had an eidetic memory. With no other option, he decided to take a gamble. Seeing how serious Yi Qiao was, the librarian finally pulled out the memory stones and agreed to let her give it a try. With a stern look, he warned Yi Qiao, "Go to the restricted area and start copying. And don't even think about leaving until you're done." He figured this would be the perfect chance to test if the girl truly had a photographic memory. Just as Yi Qiao was about to head off, the librarian caught a glimpse of Ming Xian, who had been trying to sneak away. Knowing full well that he had something to do with the disaster, the librarian called out, "You're going with her. Both of you won't leave until it's finished." Ming Xian, who thought he had narrowly avoided punishment, was now silently cursing himself for not running faster earlier. If only he'd been just a bit quicker, he might have actually gotten away. Up on the main peak, surrounded by spiritual energy, Elder Duan was casually gossiping with his senior disciple, Zhu Xingyun, while sipping tea. He excitedly shared the news that his little junior disciple had caused chaos again, this time, teaming up with Ming Xian to burn down the library. You could hear the excitement and schadenfreude in his tone. Zhu Xingyun thought to himself, that Yi Qiao really can't sit still. She just joined the sect and already left a massive crater in the plaza. Now, as soon as she starts working at Qingchuan, she's burning down the library. Though he kept a calm face while sipping his tea, inside, he was wondering if he'd taken in a junior sister or just a walking disaster. Back to Yi Qiao and Ming Xian, they arrived at the restricted area. Yi Qiao found it to be a beautiful and serene place, full of spiritual energy, not so much a forbidden zone as a perfect spot for training. Noticing her wide-eyed wonder, Ming Xian decided to explain the history of their sect's forbidden zone. He told her that this was the site where their founder had ascended, leaving behind many treasures. Of course, it was also filled with hidden dangers, which is why it was off-limits. Yi Qiao, however, wasn't interested in treasure hunting, she just wanted to finish copying the books. As they walked deeper into the area, they suddenly saw someone standing and facing a wall, looking familiar. When Yi Qiao focused, she realized it was her beloved third senior brother. Shui Yu noticed them approaching and happily waved, then asked what they were doing there. After all, this was the Forbidden Zone, usually a place where minor disciples were punished with wall-facing meditation. How did they even get in here? Yi Qiao saw no reason to hide the truth and admitted that she had burned down the library. Shui Yu paused for a moment, then turned to Ming Xian and asked, "And what about him?" Yi Qiao answered honestly, "He helped me burn it down." Shui Yu clutched his chest in shock, thinking, have my junior brothers and sisters finally lost their minds? After a moment of silence, he asked in disbelief, "Do you two have some grudge against the library?" Yi Qiao shook her head, saying she was just playing with fire and accidentally burned the books. After hearing Yi Qiao's explanation, Shui Yu was even more speechless. Playing with fire? Who in their right mind would go into a library at night to mess around with something like that? After exchanging reasons for their punishments, they learned that Shui Yu was here because he'd made some experimental pills. Turns out, the pills caused his fellow brothers and sisters to laugh uncontrollably to the point where they got poisoned and had to be carried away. Yi Qiao couldn't help but roll her eyes when Shui Yu awkwardly laughed after finishing his story. What kind of chaotic group of misfits were they? Ming Xian sighed, sat on the ground, and fanned himself. The mountain breeze nudged him along, and he reminded Yi Qiao, "Hurry up and get to copying. We can't leave until you're done." Yi Qiao agreed, then took out her brush, ink, and paper, preparing herself. She placed a spirit stone into the memory stone and began replaying what was recorded in it. As pages and pages of books opened up in the spirit stone's world, Yi Qiao focused intensely and memorized every single word. Snapping back to reality, she immediately began copying, her brush flying across the paper. In her rush to finish, her handwriting looked like a bunch of chaotic scribbles, so bad that even her own parents wouldn't be able to recognize it. Shui Yu watched this scene unfold and quietly elbowed Ming Xian. "What's she doing?" he whispered. "She's copying books," Ming Xian explained. She burned a dozen books from the third floor, so she promised the librarian she'd rewrite every single one. Shui Yu's eyes widened in disbelief. Rewrite them all? If she really has the memory to pull that off, what kind of genius is this little junior sister of theirs? As dawn broke, time ticked by slowly. Yi Qiao was completely absorbed, and her writing speed kept increasing. She tapped into the same focus she had back when she was cramming for exams, determined to study to death if she had to. She spent the entire day copying books, her speed leaving the two of them absolutely speechless. She felt dizzy and lightheaded from all the work. Her two senior brothers glanced at what she had copied and couldn't help but think, this handwriting looks like a bunch of scribbles, who could even read this? Just then, their little junior sister muttered, I'm so exhausted, I can't do this anymore. And with that, she collapsed backwards onto the ground. Ming Xian and Shui Yu watched as she fell, sighing softly. For a moment, they thought they saw a tiny crying ghost slip out of her mouth. Life in the Forbidden Zone was rough, and they were really counting on her to finish copying those books so they could all get out of there. Immediately, the two of them started massaging her shoulders and back, giving her some words of encouragement. Ming Xian thought to himself that getting out of here completely depended on their junior sister. Yi Qiao felt a little better after that and said, all right, fine, help me up. I can still do this. Half an hour later, she threw down her brush, collapsed onto the ground again, and dramatically declared, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Just let me die. Her face was pale, her head hurt, and she felt even more drained than before. Shui Yu was super worried and told her that her current condition was due to overusing her spiritual energy and that she needed to hang in there. Whether they could leave or not totally depended on her. Noticing that she had a nosebleed, Shui Yu quickly pulled out some replenishing pills, urging her to take a few so she could keep going. Ming Xian, meanwhile, gave an enthusiastic pep talk, insisting that if their junior sister just worked hard enough, they could all live the lives they wanted. But deep down, he was really just thinking, hurry up and finish. I want to get out of here. Yi Qiao's hands trembled as she popped the pill into her mouth, thinking sarcastically, wow, thanks so much, you two are such great senior brothers. But, to be fair, the pill from her third senior brother actually worked pretty well. In no time, she felt energized again. Shui Yu was shocked and asked, Junior sister, did you just break through? Closing her eyes to check her spiritual state, she realized she was at the peak of the Qi refining stage, just one step away from the foundation establishment stage. When she was copying earlier, she had noticed her spiritual Qi expanding, and now she understood it was because she had just broken through. Ming Xian felt a bit unreal. Was breaking through really this easy now? After all, reaching the peak of the Qi refining stage usually required at least 3 days of meditation, and breaking through was no small feat. Shui Yu propped his chin and thought she must have broken through by relying on these replenishing pills, just like a talisman master uses talismans to break through. He shared his theory, suggesting, could it be that our junior sister broke through by understanding the runes she's been studying non-stop these past few days? It made sense, considering how she had been obsessively copying those symbols. But Ming Xian raised an eyebrow and asked, isn't she a sword cultivator? Shui Yu suddenly remembered something and said, have you ever heard of someone who cultivates 2 paths at once? It's super rare, only the most talented can do it. Only the founder of the Changming sect was the sole dual cultivator, mastering both sword and pill cultivation. But to think our junior sister could be one too, that's kind of hard to believe. Before they could spiral further into wild theories, Yi Qiao patted them on the shoulders and cut them off. Stop overthinking. It's probably just because there's a lot of spiritual energy here. Now, quit talking, I've got more books to copy. By the time she finished copying all the books, 2 whole days had passed. The librarian looked at the neatly stacked piles of documents next to the 3 of them. He figured Shui Yu and Ming Xian didn't really contribute much to the copying, so he let them off the hook and waved them away. Watching her 2 senior brothers quickly turn to leave, Yi Qiao grumbled to herself about how heartless they were, not even waiting for her. Left behind, she had no choice but to follow the librarian to the 3rd floor of the library. There, she noticed the once messy rune scrolls were now organized neatly. The librarian pulled out a few ancient-looking scrolls from somewhere and, handling them carefully, asked her politely, "Little one, how about helping us out with these?" Instantly on high alert, she smartly asked, "What kind of help?" She had a gut feeling it wasn't going to be a good deal, and honestly, she'd rather spend that time sleeping than taking on extra unnecessary work. The elder, thrown off by her attitude, stood silent for a moment before explaining that these scrolls were left behind by the sect's founder for future disciples to study. He added that the scrolls contained ancient pill recipes, and since Yi Qiao had already memorized all the books in the 10-mile radius, these ancient scrolls should be a breeze. Her forehead broke out in a sweat, and she couldn't help but remind the elder that she was human, not a machine. Seriously, if she went through all these ancient scrolls, she'd probably end up completely drained. The librarian pondered for a moment and then asked what she meant. Yi Qiao cut to the chase, saying, "I can do it, but you'll have to pay up. My sleep is precious, after all. I can memorize the books with just a glance, but it's gonna cost you." When the elder was reminded of the sect's financial struggles, his face darkened. Changming sect was so broke that they couldn't even keep the pot boiling. Worried Yi Qiao might refuse, the elder reluctantly offered her a bottle of pills as payment. Yi Qiao's smile vanished, and with a wave of her hand, she said, "Forget it. I'll just slack off. Seriously, I hate reading more than anything." "Well, unless the money's good, of course." Just as she was about to leave, the librarian quickly patted her shoulder, looking flustered. Wait. I'll throw in 2 more bottles of pills, 3 total." Yi Qiao stretched lazily, yawned, and replied in a bored tone, "Nah, with this much time, I might as well take another nap." The librarian, realizing that this little troublemaker wouldn't cave without something more valuable, gritted his teeth. "Come back. If you can copy all these ancient texts without a single mistake, you can take your pick from the special grade pills." Hearing this, Yi Qiao flashed a bright smile. "Deal." As Yi Qiao got her hands on the ancient scrolls, she placed her spirit stone into them, and the world started spinning. When she opened her eyes again, everything looked unfamiliar. "So, this is inside the ancient scroll, hey?" she muttered. The setup looked similar to the current library, but far less fancy. She walked closer and saw an old man making pills, muttering non-stop. "With only bitterwood, ghost flower, and some dogbane, you think you can make pills? Ha! When I've got money, I'm going back to raise pigs." Watching this scene, Yi Qiao thought to herself, the ancestor of Changming sect really had some wild ideas. If I could, I'd probably raise pigs too. Though the old man complained the whole time, his hands never stopped. He refined the pill, controlled the fire, and expertly selected the herbs. Everything flowed smoothly until he performed some intricate hand seals, and a golden pill imprint floated into the furnace. Yi Qiao closely observed each step, carefully memorizing the hand seals before snapping out of the vision. She immediately started writing down everything she'd seen. The librarian, watching her scribble away, couldn't help but think, this rebellious girl actually has some skills. The entire library was silent except for the sound of her brush. Soon enough, Yi Qiao finished, but her nose was bleeding. Wiping it with one hand and holding out the other, she asked the librarian for the key to the pill room. The librarian handed over a key, noticing her pale face. "You should go rest soon," the librarian said, a bit concerned. She slowly dragged herself out of the library. As soon as she was out of the librarian's sight, she popped a recovery pill given to her by Shui Yu. She didn't head to the pill room right away. Despite all the ancient texts she'd read, she still only had a basic understanding of pill making. But that wasn't a problem, she could always ask her third senior brother for help. Shui Yu had already gone to bed when he heard someone knocking on his door. He opened it and jumped in surprise when he saw a shadowy figure. It turned out to be his junior sister, who excitedly waved the key to the pill pavilion in his face. "Third senior brother, let's go to the pill peak. The librarian gave me the key to the pill room as a thank you for copying the scrolls. He said I could take whatever I wanted." She beamed, inviting him along to help her pick out the best stuff. Shuiyu couldn't believe it. The librarian was notorious for being stingy, so this was a rare opportunity. Knowing how lucky they were, he quickly agreed to help her take full advantage of the situation. The two of them hurried over to the pill room, picking out only the most valuable items. Yi Qiao ended up with bags full of treasures and kept showering Shuiyu with compliments for being such a big help. They left the Pill Peak in high spirits, but the Pill Peak master wasn't as thrilled. He could only watch helplessly as these two troublemakers not only took the rarest pills but also swiped some precious herbs from the garden. If they weren't direct disciples, he would have kicked them out on the spot. After helping her pick out the pills, Shuiyu walked Yi Qiao back to her room. For some reason, the moment he stepped inside, he noticed that the spiritual energy in her room was abnormally thick, almost as strong as in the Silent Emperor's chamber. Since he wasn't a spiritual cultivator, he chalked it up to her good luck in getting such a prime spot. He earnestly advised her to take advantage of the amazing conditions to train harder, especially since the sect's big competition was only 6 months away. Yi Qiao nodded thoughtfully, agreeing with her senior brother. Just as Shuiyu started feeling satisfied, his junior sister chimed in, quoting some famous philosopher about how you should always go to bed by 10 p.m. because staying up is bad for your health. And just like that, his junior sister flopped onto her bed and said, "Good night, third senior brother," before falling fast asleep. Shuiyu was left speechless, 3 question marks practically floating above his head. Wait, who's this philosopher? And did she just fall asleep that fast? He had no choice but to sigh in frustration and mutter, "Good night, junior sister." The next morning, when Yi Qiao went to the cafeteria for breakfast, she overheard 2 disciples from Danfeng having a casual conversation. One said, "I just made 2 pills. How about we sneak down the mountain today and sell them?" The other nodded eagerly, replying, 2 pills should bring in about 200 spirit stones. No more having to gnaw on stale buns. Hearing this, Yi Qiao got excited and rushed over to them, asking, "You mean alchemy can make this much money?" The 2 disciples, seeing the sword hanging at her waist, assumed she was from one of the sword sects and told her, "Well, theoretically, the only ones who are broke are the sword cultivators. Even a mid-grade pill can sell for 300 spirit stones. But only senior brother Shui can make those," one added. As a poor sword cultivator herself, Yi Qiao felt personally attacked. She thought about the pills she'd gotten the night before. There were quite a few top-grade ones. But then she remembered that the rare items from Danfeng couldn't be sold. How was she supposed to make money? Suddenly, an idea popped into her head. She could try making her own pills and selling them. After all, she couldn't just sit back and let people keep calling her a broke sword cultivator. Being the type of person who takes action as soon as she gets an idea, Yi Qiao asked the 2 alchemy disciples about the cost of a pill furnace. When she learned that even a decent one cost 10,000 spirit stones, she felt embarrassed for even asking. What a joke! With costs that high, how was she supposed to make any profit? And the worst part? She didn't even have that kind of money to begin with. After breakfast, Yi Qiao went to the cafeteria lady and borrowed a big iron pot, thinking, "Who says you need anything fancy? A pot's a pot." Back in the courtyard, she got everything ready, lit a fire, and focused on how she could make some money. The spiritual herbs she grabbed from Danfeng last night would come in handy. As the flames grew, she tossed the herbs into the air, mimicking the moves from the ancient manual she found, using the spirit stone to crush and refine the herbs exactly as instructed. Finally, she shaped the pill and, for the final touch, added her favorite smell, spicy snail noodles. Confident she'd done it right, she couldn't wait to see how her first pill turned out. With both hands, she carefully lifted the lid, eager to see her creation. But something clearly went wrong. A giant, yellow lump sat in the pot. She was stunned. She remembered her 3rd senior brother's pills were always perfectly round, smooth, and shiny. Her pill, though, looked like it had way too many calories. She tried to cheer herself up, thinking, "Hey, I shouldn't compare myself to others. At least this is edible, right?" After all, back in modern times, she was a total disaster in the kitchen, so pulling this off on her first try was still a win. This time, she tried making a spirit refining pill, which was supposed to refine spiritual energy. She couldn't wait to test it out and immediately thought of her first target, her super chill third senior brother, Shui Yu, who was currently teaching the younger disciples how to improve their pill-making skills and avoid mistakes. He was sharing his tips, explaining that the most important thing in alchemy was to stay calm and peaceful. Then, he told them how people might try to mess with your concentration during competitions, and the key was to ignore them. To demonstrate, he smoothly went through the entire process, every move flowing perfectly. The junior brothers watched in awe, resting their heads in their hands, thinking, wow, third senior brother is so amazing. No wonder he's known as the Clear Spring. At that moment, Yi Qiao barged in and shouted, "Third senior brother, I brought you something awesome." She pulled out the pill she had made from her storage bag, and the strong smell of spicy snail noodles instantly filled the room. The next second, the sound of dry heaving could be heard. Shui Yu, who had been calm and composed up until then, covered his mouth, struggling to maintain his usual serene demeanor. Trembling, he asked her to take the pill far, far away. Before he could finish his sentence, the pill cauldron began to bubble up, and then, with a loud boom, it exploded in spectacular fashion. Shui Yu stood there, completely stunned, as he slowly exhaled a puff of black smoke and gritted his teeth, saying, "Little junior sister, you're brutal. This is the first time in all my years of pill making that I've saw blown up a cauldron from the smell." She patted down Shui Yu's singed hair and shoved the massive lump of a pill towards his face, cheerfully asking, "Senior brother, wanna try it? I think it should taste pretty good." Shui Yu, still puffing out black smoke, immediately declined, refusing to eat whatever mysterious concoction this was, and told her to taste it herself. Just then, the classroom door flew open with a bang, and Elder Zhao rushed in after hearing the commotion. The moment he stepped inside, he was hit by the overwhelming stench. Pointing at Yi Qiao, he shouted furiously, "How dare you cook literal crap in my classroom?" Yi Qiao hugged her precious pill tightly, thinking, how can anyone use such uncivilized words to describe it? With a sad look, she said to Elder Zhao, "You don't have to love it, but please don't hurt it." Elder Zhao, his face twisted with rage from the smell of the snail noodles, simply barked 3 words, "Get out! Now!" Before leaving, Yi Qiao broke off half of the massive pill and forcefully handed it to Shui Yu, saying, "Make sure to eat this and give me feedback later." Without another word, she bolted out of the room. Shui Yu looked down at the pill in his hand, his face a picture of misery. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted Mu Chungi standing outside the classroom and remembered the saying, "Sharing your suffering is better than suffering alone." He waved Mu Chungi over with a forced smile and said, "Little junior brother, come here. Our little junior sister made some pills, and I'd love to share some with you." Mu Chungi quickly asked, "Wait, is it true? Our little junior sister can actually make pills now?" But before he could even close his mouth, Shui Yu took the opportunity to shove the pill right into it. Caught off guard, Mu Chungi swallowed the pill without any warning. As the intense flavor hit him, he immediately bent over and gagged, thinking to himself, what the heck is this flavor? Meanwhile, Yi Qiao, full of energy, was already on the hunt for her next taste tester. As she neared Ming Xian's courtyard, she ran while shouting, "Second senior brother, I'm here to spread the love." Ming Xian's vision was suddenly blocked by a giant lump of something yellow, making him jump back in surprise. "What on earth is that?" he asked. Yi Qiao, grinning ear to ear, explained, "It's a pill, of course." Hearing it was a pill and catching a whiff of the scent, Ming Xian's first thought was, what did Shui Yu do to make something this toxic? After a brief awkward silence, Yi Qiao said, "Second senior brother, I made this pill myself." Ming Xian hesitated for a moment before trying to think of Shui Yu and said, "Oh, well, in that case, it makes sense. Shui Yu definitely couldn't make something this big." Hearing this, Yi Qiao's excitement surged. She immediately shoved half of the pill into Ming Xian's mouth, insisting he try it. Under the intense gaze of his little junior sister, Ming Xian had no choice but to take a bite. While Yi Qiao beamed with joy, Mingxian was left suffering on the side, barely holding back her urge to throw up. At a meeting among several of the inner sect elders of Changming Sect, Elder Duan was the first to speak up. That girl Yi Qiao is stuck at the peak of the Qi refinement stage. I was thinking, why don't we send a few of them on an expedition to a secret realm for some training in a few days? Elder Zhao, remembering the last time Yi Qiao cooked who knows what disgusting thing in class, stroked his beard and immediately agreed. He thought to himself, we need to get that little brat out of Changming Sect fast, or I won't be able to resist smacking her. Sect leader Qin saw that everyone agreed and made the final decision, since no one objects, let these kids go. He figured that if these little troublemakers didn't get out and train soon, they'd end up tearing the entire sect apart. After all, they'd already had the nerve to set fire to the library pavilion and cause chaos there. The librarian was so relieved, he almost shouted, "Sect leader, you're so wise." Inside, he was thinking, finally, we're getting rid of this group of brats. If he could, he'd be out lighting firecrackers in celebration. Meanwhile, Shui Yu knocked on her little junior sister's door to wake up Yi Qiao, telling her to pack her things. Tomorrow, the 3 senior brothers would take her for some training. There's a small secret realm about to open under Cloud City, Shui Yu continued to explain. In previous years, it's usually been divided between the Wenjian sect and Yuching sect. But those stuck-up Yuching disciples probably won't care about such a small realm this time. Yi Qiao suddenly remembered something from the original story. In the novel, it was mentioned that this secret realm held a lot of treasures, and the female protagonist had collected loads of ancient spiritual plants. She muttered under her breath, in the novel, only Yuching sect went to this secret realm. I wonder if the butterfly effect from my presence caused Changming sect to send us too. The next morning, the 4 of them quickly packed and got ready to leave the mountain. Mingxian waved to her and tossed her a set of clothes. Yi Qiao was stunned. Her 3 senior brothers were standing there in bright red robes, looking like flashy shopkeepers. Mingxian explained, these are the personal robes of the Changming sect, made from 1,000-year-old silkworm thread. They're resistant to fire and water. Mu Chungi urged her, little junior sister, hurry up and change. Our sect may be a bit poor, but we're generous when it comes to direct disciples. Yi Qiao, however, wasn't interested in wearing the robe. She thought the Changming sect's personal robes were too flashy and would draw too much attention. Instead, she suggested her senior brothers change into something more low-key and less eye-catching. Mu Chungi, confused, asked, what's wrong with our robes? Don't you think they look good? Yi Qiao shook her head quickly. It wasn't that. She thought to herself, if we're trying to scam people, wearing these flashy sect robes is like giving ourselves away. She was determined to make her senior brothers ditch their fancy, expensive Changming sect robes and wear something more plain, just because she wanted to pull off a good con. Although her senior brothers didn't know what she was really thinking, they had a feeling that following their little junior sister was going to be an exciting ride. 15 minutes later, the 3 of them had given in and changed into simpler outfits. Mingxian wore white, Shui Yu put on a dark green robe, and Mu Chungi went with a red one. Yi Qiao thought they looked perfect. And so, the 4 of them, senior brothers and junior sister, happily set off on a giant crane. Cloud City had become a lot busier lately, with all kinds of rogue cultivators and small sect disciples showing up because the secret realm was about to open. The 4 of them blended right into the crowd and enjoyed the calm as they wandered through the marketplace. Mingxian was the first to speak up. I heard there's this new spirit gathering talisman going around that lets you cultivate while lying down. Should we buy some and give them a try? Yi Qiao quickly pulled Mingxian back, warning him, don't buy those, they're all scams. Mingxian looked confused. How do you know? We should at least give it a try. They're not that expensive, he said. Yi Qiao knew exactly why they were fake. It was because she was the one who had originally drawn the talisman. At first, she was just trying to make some quick cash, but once the other cultivators found out how useful they were, things spiraled out of control. The big sects had strict rules against selling talismans and pills under the table. Afraid of getting caught and punished, she stopped selling them. But by then, other street vendors had realized the profit potential, started making fakes, and jacked up the prices to 10 times what she had originally sold them for. Not wanting Ming Xian to fall for the scam, Yi Qiao dragged him by the hand toward an inn, using the excuse that the other sects would be arriving soon, and they needed to find a place to stay before it filled up. Ming Xian reluctantly agreed, thinking to himself, "Fine, I'll just buy some when we get back." The four of them made their way to the Cloud Inn. When they reached the bottom floor, they noticed a crowd gathering around something. Mu Chungi, who loved being part of any commotion, grabbed Yi Qiao and rushed into the crowd. From the chatter around them, Yi Qiao learned that the female lead, Yun-Q, had made her entrance, which explained the big fuss. Yi Qiao stood on her tiptoes and spotted Yun-Q right away. The female lead was definitely eye-catching and had a cool vibe about her. She nudged Mu Chungi and asked, "See that girl?" Mu Chungi, focused on the scene, responded, "Yeah, I see her." "Why?" Yi Qiao remembered from the novel that out of all the male characters, Mu Chungi was the first to fall for the female lead. The guy had no defenses, totally wrapped around her finger. Yi Qiao rested her hand on the sword at her waist, lifted her chin, and said seriously, "Fourth senior brother, have you ever heard this saying?" Then, pointing towards Yun-Q, she added with a solemn face, "If your heart is clear of women, you'll draw your sword like a master." Yi Qiao wasn't about to let history repeat itself. Mu Chungi, seeing her acting so serious, sighed and pushed down his head. "Stop talking nonsense. If we don't hurry up, all the rooms at the inn will be gone. The later we get there, the more they'll charge." Hearing that prices at the inn would rise, Yi Qiao immediately grabbed Mu Chungi's hand and rushed off toward the inn, scolding him, "Then why are you standing here?" Under her lead, the four of them finally squeezed into the inn. She was about to ask for 4 rooms, but then thought better of it. She wasn't sure what the rates were like now, so she turned to her 4th senior brother and asked, "Which kind of room should we go for to save some money?" As the 2 senior disciples huddled together to discuss which room would be cheapest for the night, they caught the attention of Yun-Q, who was the center of attention herself. She wasn't sure if that girl was really senior sister Yi Qiao. In her memory, Yi Qiao was always quiet, plain, and kind of forgettable, nothing like this lively and vibrant young woman in front of her, but they looked exactly the same. Feeling a bit curious and unsure, Yun-Q stepped forward and asked, "May I ask which sect you belong to?" Yi Qiao, who was busy discussing room prices with Mu Chungi, casually glanced at Yun-Q before responding flatly, "Just a small, insignificant sect." Yun-Q could tell Yi Qiao wasn't being sincere, and she felt a strange sense of frustration bubbling up. Before she could say more, a voice interrupted. The newcomer was Song Hanxing, the top disciple of the Yuching sect. When her senior brother signaled her to leave, Yun-Q, still annoyed, had no choice but to shut up. As they left, Ming Xian rubbed his chin thoughtfully and said, "That girl must be the new genius of the Yuching sect with a pure water spirit root." Mu Chungi chimed in, "Yeah, but who's the person next to her? He's even better at pretending than you are." Ming Xian twitched slightly, holding back his irritation as he explained, "That guy's the top disciple of the Yuching sect, on the same level as our senior brother, so of course, he's cautious." Hearing this, Yi Qiao regretted her oversight. She had really miscalculated this time. The top disciple of the Yuching sect was here, and she didn't bring her own senior brother along. If they ended up fighting over spiritual resources, her side wouldn't have the upper hand. Meanwhile, a few Yuching sect disciples were talking among themselves about Yi Qiao and her group. 2 at the Golden Core stage, 1 at half-step Golden Core, and that little girl, Yun-Q's frustration deepened when she overheard. "Which big sect has sent their top disciples here, too? Is that girl's senior brother really that powerful?" Just then, the innkeeper clasped his hands together and announced loudly, "Honored guests, all other rooms are fully booked. Only the deluxe rooms are left, at 100 high-grade spirit stones each." Mu Chungi and Yi Qiao stared in disbelief at the innkeeper. Mu Chungi, who was quick to react, jumped up and shouted, 100 high-grade spirit stones. Are you running a scam? Shui Yu immediately facepalmed, while Ming Xian, who never got along with him, quickly told him to shut up. What kind of disciple from a major sect would act like this? It's embarrassing. Yun-Kyu's senior brother, standing beside her, sneered and said, "Come on, let's be real. Do you really think someone this broke is a top disciple from a big sect? They're probably just some old cultivators who barely reached the golden core stage after hundreds of years." Yun-Kyu agreed, there's no way real top disciples would act like this. For some reason, she felt a strange sense of relief. As the youngest disciple of a major sect herself, she was always pampered, never having to worry about anything. Before the secret realm in Cloud City opened, Yi Qiao and her group headed to the entrance. Shui Yu warned them, the secret realm is filled with a strange fog that causes dizziness when inhaled. Most people buy magical items beforehand to protect themselves. Excited, she asked her third senior brother, "So, do we have those magical items?" To her shock, her usually reliable third senior brother replied, "Our sect doesn't make those kinds of tools. If you want them, you'll have to buy them from Chengfeng sect. They specialize in stuff like that. So we're just going in without any protection?" She couldn't believe how casual her usually responsible third senior brother was acting. In all her memories, the female lead would always enter these secret realms loaded with top-tier magical items, pills, and treasures. But when it was their turn, they were completely underprepared. At that moment, Ming Xian, completely unfazed, said, "If you can hold your breath, just do that. If not, cover your mouth and nose with something. Though, if there's a fight, it might be tricky." She started thinking, if it's just fog, maybe it's no different than the mist I see in the morning in real life. Pulling out a piece of cloth from her storage bag, she used her sword to cut it into the shape of a mask, tied it up with a string, and felt pretty proud of her makeshift solution. Yi Qiao made over a dozen masks, thinking it was better to be safe than sorry. She handed one to each of her three senior brothers and told them to wear it, saying it might help protect them from the harmful fog in the secret realm. After that, she even demonstrated how to wear it. The three of them had never seen anything like it before and thought it looked pretty weird, but seeing their little junior sister's expectant gaze, they couldn't bear to let her down. Yi Qiao noticed that the people from Yuching sect had arrived. She immediately recognized Suzhua, he was the one she had met earlier. It looked like only 3 of the 5 direct disciples from Yuching sect had shown up this time, Yun-Kyu, the chief disciple Song Hanxing, and, of course, Suzhua. Sensing her gaze, Suzhua furrowed his brows and instinctively stepped in front of Yun-Kyu, mistakenly thinking Yi Qiao was just another female cultivator jealous of his beautiful junior sister. After all, Yun-Kyu attracted plenty of envy from other female cultivators. Worried his junior sister might get hurt, Suzhua shot Yi Qiao a cold glare. Yi Qiao, seeing his icy stare, rubbed her nose awkwardly. But thanks to her mask, Suzhua didn't recognize her. She couldn't help but think to herself, "Oh, Suzhua, you're such a loyal lapdog. Too bad in the original story, you were nothing more than a side character, not even close to being a proper male lead." Once all 4 of them had their masks on, they attracted curious looks from people along the way. Finally, someone couldn't resist anymore and walked up to Yi Qiao, asking, "Excuse me, what's that thing you're wearing on your face?" Yi Qiao's eyes lit up as she took out the remaining masks from her storage ring and smiled slightly. "I came up with these masks. They may not be as good as magical tools, but they might be able to protect you from the harmful fog in the secret realm," she said with a grin. Hearing this, the people around her perked up immediately. After all, most of the people entering this small secret realm were from small sects or independent cultivators. They weren't like the wealthy members of the Yuching sect who could easily afford magical tools. Sensing a business opportunity, Yi Qiao hopped onto a nearby rock, raised the masks high above her head, and began to shout energetically, "Absolutely authentic. Just 5 pieces of low-grade spirit stones each. You won't get ripped off, and you won't regret it. Anyone want to give it a try?" The crowd thought to themselves, "Well, it's not that expensive anyway. What if it actually works? Might as well buy one and see." They rushed to buy masks from her, one after another. Mu Chungi stood there, staring in shock as his little junior sister boldly advertised her product. She's amazing. If it were me, I'd be way too embarrassed to sell things so openly in front of so many people. Shui Yu coughed lightly and added, junior sister is always really enthusiastic whenever money are involved. Su Shua glanced at the growing crowd around Yi Qiao and sneered softly, these people will do anything for a tiny bargain. It's embarrassing. Yin Qiu silently agreed but commented, maybe those small sects just don't have much money. That girl looks about the same age as us, but she has to lower herself like this just to get some money. Mu Chungi pointed to the secret realm entrance and shouted to his senior brothers and sisters, let's go. The secret realm is open. Yi Qiao happily clutched the spirit stones she had just earned from selling the masks and quickly caught up with her senior brothers. As soon as everyone stepped into the secret realm, they found it filled with thick fog. Mu Chungi pointed to the mask on his face and exclaimed excitedly, junior sister, your mask really works. It's blocking out the fog. Where do you come up with all these strange ideas? Yi Qiao responded proudly, it's all thanks to the wisdom of your junior sister. Meanwhile, Shui Yu, who had been prepared to use his mist-dispelling pills if the masks didn't work, thought to himself, looks like I won't be needing those pills after all. The arrogance of the yuching sect disciples quickly faded once they entered the secret realm. Although they had magical tools to protect themselves, using those tools consumed their spiritual energy. Su Shua noticed that none of the people wearing the mask seemed to be showing any signs of poisoning, which meant the masks were really effective. He couldn't help but say, senior brother, let's go buy some masks from them. Song Hanxing knew that wasting spiritual energy like this wasn't sustainable, especially since each mask only cost 5 low-grade spirit stones. Just a few would be more than enough to cover it. Putting on an air of superiority, he walked over to Yi Qiao and her group, blocking their way. Excuse me, do you still have any masks left? He asked. Yi Qiao chuckled inwardly. She hadn't expected someone from Yuching Sect to come over and buy from her. Yeah, of course, I still have some left. The moment Song Hanxing started to pull out some money, Yi Qiao quickly interjected, but things have changed. The price isn't the same as before. After all, if the head disciple of a major sect wanted to buy her masks, there was no way she'd miss the chance to raise the price. This was because, at first, they had all looked down on her cheap 5 low-grade spirit stone masks. Song Hanxing's expression darkened with impatience. He thought to himself, I knew it. These small sect people always take advantage of every opportunity to rip people off. What do you mean by that? He asked. Yi Qiao held up one finger and smiled, 100 high-grade spirit stones each. Even Song Hanxing, who was usually composed, looked shocked. Su Hui, furious, stepped forward. Are you doing this on purpose just to mess with us? The price is more than 2,000 times higher now. No one would believe it if you said you weren't targeting us. Yi Qiao played with the mask in her hand and met Su Jue's angry gaze with a shrug. What can I say? Small sects like us need every bit of money we can get. She was doing it on purpose. Back when Su Jue tipped off Yunhang about the ephemeral grass, Yi Qiao's hard-earned spiritual herb was stolen. She'd never forgotten about that. She continued, but hey, the Yuching sect's elite disciples surely wouldn't mind losing just a few spirit stones, right? Yi Qiao deliberately emphasized the phrase elite disciple. She noticed something interesting, every direct disciple of these major sects seemed to care about their reputation as if their face was their life. Since they cared so much, she figured she might as well take advantage of it. It's not like she had a reputation to lose anyway. Su Jue instantly fell silent, his words stuck in his throat, unable to go up or down. He was so furious that he almost choked. Sure, their Yuching sect was wealthy, but they weren't stupid. 100 high-grade spirit stones could buy a whole bottle of pills, why would they waste that on a cheap mask? But if he refused now, with all these rogue cultivators watching, it would be like slapping their own sect's face. Song Hanxing's expression shifted for a moment before he looked over at Su Shua and nodded. Just give her the money, he said. Su Shua clenched his teeth in frustration and finally gave in, handing over 300 high-grade spirit stones. Here, take it, he spat. Yi Qiao's eyes lit up as she caught the money pouch and casually tossed 3 masks over to them. When Sujua held the flimsy masks in his hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that everyone around him was secretly laughing at them. After entering the secret realm, people gradually began to spread out. Shui Yu, the most experienced and calmest of their group, spoke up, "Watch your step. There are many dangerous spiritual plants in this place, some are even aggressive. Also, don't touch anything or run off on your own, or you might get separated." Yi Qiao quickly followed behind her 3 senior brothers. In a place like this, being alone was definitely not a good idea. Mu Chungi glanced back at the Yuching sect group, who were still lingering in the same spot as if they were looking for something. After Sujua's 300 high-grade spirit stones went down the drain, Yi Qiao's opinion of the Yuching sect solidified. They were now officially the rich suckers who were easy to take advantage of. Shui Yu explained, "They're probably looking for some powerful rogue cultivators to follow around, hoping to reap the benefits without doing any work." The Yuching sect loved taking advantage of others. A long time ago, Shui Yu had accompanied his senior brother on a training mission in a small secret realm, where they'd run into Song Hanxing and his crew. Back then, they'd spent a lot of effort tracking down some Qingxing grass, which was crucial for refining a special type of calming pill. Right after his senior brother defeated the guardian beast, Song Hanxing's group swooped in and snatched it. Saying they weren't mad would be a lie, but there was nothing they could do. Ever since then, Shui Yu had kept a close eye on the Yuching sect. Mu Chungi was startled. "Then what should we do? Maybe we should keep our distance from them. I don't want to spend all that effort fighting only to have someone else swoop in and steal our reward." Mingxian thought for a moment before pulling his junior sister's hand. "Let's move faster so we don't get targeted." Listening to the 3 of them talk, Yi Qiao was shocked. She tugged at Mingxuan's sleeve, staring directly at them. "Why are you guys trying to avoid them? Haven't they stolen from you plenty of times before? Don't you want to get back at them?" Her kind-hearted senior brothers didn't agree with revenge, so Yi Qiao decided to frame it as something else. To her, it was just about changing the wording, it was all about causing trouble anyway. Shui Yu had never even heard of the word revenge being used this way before. Subconsciously, Shui Yu pulled his junior sister closer and corrected her, "As disciples of the righteous path, we should be honest and above board. How could we lower ourselves to revenge?" Even Mingxian, who usually had a bit of a temper, nodded in rare agreement. "Yeah, we're not demonic cultivators. Why don't we just call it reciprocating instead?" Running away wasn't the best way. Others might back off when they hit a wall, but Yi Qiao would smash through it before she'd give up. She rubbed her hands together and turned to her 3rd senior brother. "Do you have any pills that can temporarily hide your cultivation level? Concealment pills aren't very useful to most cultivators. After all, they want to show off their strength, not hide it. In the cultivation world, everyone's dying to flaunt their power, so who would want to cover it up?" But Shui Yu had a knack for researching strange and quirky things. When Yi Qiao brought it up, he thought for a moment and realized he did have some. "Wait, do you really want to take a concealment pill?" Yi Qiao shook her head. "I don't need it. But you should take one. It's not like someone as low level as me has anything worth hiding anyway. It's more important to hide the cultivation levels of you and 2 senior brothers. That way, we can go over to the Yuching sect and have a friendly chat with them." "Yeah, that's it, have a friendly chat." Shui Yu had a bad feeling about this. "What are you up to now?" He'd been a direct disciple for so many years and had seen all sorts of crazy stuff, but Yi Qiao never failed to shatter his worldview. Yi Qiao blinked innocently and grinned, "Nothing much. Just want to have a friendly exchange with them." Song Hanxing and the others set their sights on rogue cultivators at the Foundation establishment stage. Because they specialized in support techniques rather than sword arts, they didn't have as much fighting power. So, whenever the Yuching sect entered a minor secret realm, they'd always pick on unaffiliated cultivators with no backing. "Don't worry, little junior sister. With me here, you'll definitely reach Foundation establishment this time." Song Hanxing glanced at Yun Qiu with satisfaction. He liked this junior sister a lot, pretty, delicate, and sweet enough to melt anyone's heart. With a slight smile in his eyes, he added, "By the time we're done, I'll make sure you get all the heavenly treasures you need." Yunkyu's face turned a faint shade of red under his gaze. Good talent, strong family background, and a chief disciple position, someone like him treating Yunkyu so well made her feel almost giddy. Suzhua noticed the close interaction between the two, and though he felt a little hurt, he stayed quiet. He knew his junior sister had always seen him as a big brother figure. As the two exchanged looks, a faint voice sounded not far away. "I couldn't believe it. The leaves of the Enlightenment tree are actually here? Senior brother, you're the strongest one here. You have to bring those leaves out," Yi Qiao said seriously. Song Hanshen's ears perked up at the mention of the Enlightenment tree's leaves. The leaves from an Enlightenment tree could help cultivators enter a state of deep meditation, something that all major sects coveted. Suzhua frowned. How did those rogue cultivators get so lucky? Could it be a trap? He couldn't help but be cautious, but Song Hanxing waved it off. He extended his senses and, after confirming there was no immediate danger around, he finally spoke. The strongest one among them is just some kid at the peak of the qi condensation stage. Why would they risk doing something like this? After all, the masks and the thick mist in the area made it even harder to see clearly. Song Hanxing didn't realize that the person they were staring at was Yi Qiao, the same girl who'd tricked them out of 100 spirit stones not long ago. Yunkyu, still holding on to Suzhua's sleeve, softly asked, "Senior brother, isn't this a bit wrong?" Her timid question made Suzhua's heart soften. Little junior sister was still too kind. He chuckled lightly and said, "This cultivation world is all about survival of the fittest. If they don't have the strength to protect what's theirs, we're just giving them a lesson in reality, that's all." He said these shameless words without even blinking. "Hand over the enlightenment leaf." Hearing this, Yi Qiao signaled to the other two senior brothers to hide, leaving only Shui Yu and herself to handle the situation. She quickly exchanged glances with the third senior brother. When their eyes met Suzhua's cold gaze, the tension heightened. Yi Qiao's expression shifted to one of fear, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke. "What do you want to do?" "Little girl, just give us the enlightenment leaf," Song Hanxing said with a slow, deliberate smile. "Or else? You wouldn't want to see your senior brother crippled, would you?" As soon as he finished speaking, Song Hanxing sent a captive talisman flying. A blinding golden light shot out, hitting Shui Yu straight on. He clutched his chest and fell to the ground, coughing up blood. Shui Yu's eyes widened in shock. He raised his voice abruptly, while still clutching his chest and coughing violently, forced out, "Junior sister, don't worry about me." Seeing Shui Yu's reaction, Song Hanxing was thrilled. He hadn't expected that his attack, which was just meant to be a warning, would end up injuring someone so badly. In the end, he chalked it up to the fact that these rogue cultivators were just too weak. He said coldly, "If you don't want your senior brother to suffer anymore, hand over the enlightenment leaf." After a moment of hesitation, Yi Qiao had no choice but to toss the box in her hands over. She quickly went to support her senior brother and added, "The box has been sealed. Let us go, and I'll tell you how to undo it." Her words made Song Hanxing feel a bit more at ease. If Yi Qiao had given up the enlightenment leaf too easily, he would have suspected a trap. Song Hanxing ignored Yi Qiao's words and tried to undo the box's seal on his own, but it was no use. He couldn't help but be surprised by how cleverly the box was designed. "All right, fine, I'll let you go. Now, tell me the trick to breaking the seal." Without hesitation, Yi Qiao rattled off a multiplication table. "This formation is a special inheritance from our sect. You'll have to wait 49 days for it to deactivate, and when that time comes, just recite what I said earlier, and the box will open." Yi Qiao's explanation was confident and sounded surprisingly rhythmic, as if it were a real incantation. Song Hanxing narrowed his eyes and threatened, "If you dare lie to us, you're dead." Yi Qiao put on an expression of misery and replied, "How could I? I'm just an unaffiliated cultivator. I wouldn't dare deceive someone from such a big sect. Song Hanxing, satisfied with his haul, couldn't be bothered to deal with these lowly rogue cultivators any longer. Clutching the box, he turned and left without looking back. After the Yuching sect's group was completely gone, Shui Yu, who had been lying motionless on the ground, jumped up with a nimble move. Two senior brothers who had been hiding behind the trees also came out of hiding. "Whoa, since when did you guys get so good at this?" Ming Xian couldn't help but exclaim. Third senior brother, that acting was incredible. You coughed up blood like it was nothing. You totally nailed it. And to think, I just gave you a stage to perform on, and you made the most of it because you're a natural drama king. Shui Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and took out a red berry from his storage pouch. I just happened to have this on hand, didn't know it had come in so handy. Mu Chungi silently gave him a thumbs up. This little outing with senior brother had his mind blown. So, you can do that too. Seriously, what kind of trick is this? Shui Yu, feeling a bit shy from all the praise, cleared his throat. By the way, junior sister, what exactly did you put in that box? Oh, it's just the box I usually use to store herbs, Yi Qiao replied casually. It doesn't need a seal to open it, just a bit of time. Honestly, I think I just stuffed in half a pancake I didn't finish eating. Ming Xian was stunned again. Why the heck did you bring a pancake? Who goes exploring in a quiet place like this without bringing any magical tools but thinks it's a good idea to pack a pancake? Yi Qiao innocently replied, to eat, of course. I was worried I'd get hungry, okay? Besides, the storage box from our Changming sect keeps things fresh for quite a while. It probably won't go bad even after a month. Haha, I just wonder which lucky Yuching sect member is going to end up with my half-eaten pancake. Shui Yu was speechless. Junior sister's boldness is really something else. Also, what was that multiplication table thing? Is it some sort of secret technique? I've never heard of it before, but honestly, it sounds way easier to memorize than all those complicated chants we usually have to learn. Yi Qiao's tone became even more innocent. Oh, that? It's something every kid from my hometown can recite. I didn't expect it to work so well in the cultivation world, too. The small secret realm didn't seem too dangerous. Shui Yu had been to similar places more than 20 times, so he expertly led his fellow disciples deeper in. The richer the spiritual energy, the better the treasures inside. As they got closer to their destination, Yi Qiao could feel the spiritual energy surging through her body. It seemed like there were plenty of valuable items in this secret realm, and she knew they weren't the only ones here. Song Hanxing's group from the Yuching sect had also arrived. Shui Yu, worried that the best items might be snatched by someone else, quickened his pace. At the center of the realm, a large grove came into view. The lush green leaves exuded a refreshing fragrance, and just smelling it cleared his mind. It's cleansing heart grass, Shui Yu exclaimed, recognizing it instantly. He had once found a single plant of this kind, but the Yuching sect stole it from him back then. He had regretted it for a long time, but now, there was a whole field of them here. He was practically bursting with excitement. Meanwhile, Yi Qiao was mentally calculating how much money she could make by refining these herbs into pills. Hurry and pick them before anyone else shows up, she urged. Recalling his previous loss to the Yuching sect, Shui Yu spoke quickly, make sure to keep the roots intact so we can transplant them to Dan Peak later. The four of them split up to gather the herbs. Yi Qiao and Ming Xian went to a different patch, and just as Yi Qiao squatted down and reached out to pick one, a sharp gust of wind whooshed past her. Something was rushing at her at breakneck speed. Just as the attack was about to hit Yi Qiao, Ming Xian reacted swiftly, throwing out a Vajra talisman to block the attack. At the same time, as the talisman landed softly on the ground, Ming Xian's expression turned cold. If I hadn't been fast enough, that explosive talisman could have seriously hurt our little junior sister here at the peak of chi refinement. Even if it didn't kill her, it would have blasted her away for sure. Song Hanxing stood there with his hands behind his back, no sign of apology on his face, casually flicking his fingers. Good reflexes, he commented, clearly impressed by his reaction time. Ming Xian's gaze sharpened, alert as he stepped forward and placed Yi Qiao behind him protectively. Yeah, now he could see it clearly, none of the yuching sect members were good people.